Chapter 138. In the middle of the night, Xiaochen was sitting on a tree branch when he heard a weak murmur. He slowly descended from the tree and walked to Leng Liusu's side. Leng Liusu's pale face was covered in sweat. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together and her breathing was very rapid. It was clear that she was having a nightmare and was under a lot of pressure. Xiaochen placed his hand on her forehead and slowly sent in a gentle stream of essence. Because Xiaochen cultivated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, his essence had a trace of the effects of immortal qi. After a while, Leng Liusu's expression slowly turned gentle. Her breathing slowly stabilized and her eyebrows relaxed. Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief and stopped sending in his essence. He withdrew his hand and prepared to leave. Pooh! Just as Xiaochen released his hand, Leng Liusu grabbed it. Leng Liusu closed her eyes and seemed to be talking in her sleep. Father, don't go. Don't leave Liusu behind. Her grip was very tight. Xiaochen blushed with shame. He smiled bitterly in his heart. Girl, you have mistaken me for someone else. Don't grab me so tightly. Xiaochen did his best to pry her hand away. However, he discovered that if he did not use his essence, he would not be able to do so. Even if he used his essence, he was afraid of waking her up. So he could only sit down slowly. He did not dare to make any big movements. He could not even sleep or cultivate. He just stood guard at the side with his eyes wide open. The night sky was heavy in the quiet forest. One could not even see their fingers when they stretched out their hands. Xiaochen sat beside Leng Liusu and listened to her steady breathing. He did not move at all and felt extremely bitter. When the sky was about to brighten, Xiaochen finally felt Leng Liusu's grip loosen a little. He quickly struggled free. Xiaochen checked Leng Liusu's internal injuries again and discovered that they were no longer a problem. She just needed to rest for a while. When Xiaochen stood up, he felt his back aching. He had not slept for the entire night and was clearly fatigued. Xiaochen patted his cheeks and looked to the east. He looked at the white sky and prepared to leave this place. You unintentionally saved my life. Now, I have saved your life and even accompanied you for a night. We are even. Xiaochen smiled gently as he looked at Leng Liusu. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped, feeling as if he had lost something. He murmured, "Am I worse than a beast? You're a living example of a beautiful woman lying next to you for an entire night, yet you don't have any reaction at all. That's not right." Xiaochen quickly retreated and looked at Leng Liusu's pretty face. He took a deep breath and quickly planted a kiss on her forehead. After that, he immediately dodged and rushed forward. Leng Liusu, who was in a deep sleep, did not react. When the sky brightened and the first ray of sunlight shone on her face, she slowly woke up. Leng Liusu opened her eyes slightly. She was not used to the piercing light. She looked at the jacket draped over her body and revealed a doubtful expression. Did someone save me? Who could it be? Before she fainted yesterday, the last image in Leng Liusu's mind was a bolt of lightning tearing through the sky. She could not remember anything else. She slowly stood up and placed the jacket she was wearing to the side. In the end, she discovered that her jacket was torn beyond recognition, revealing a lot of her skin. She could not help but blush. What surprised her was that the wound on her chest had miraculously healed in just one night. The wound had already scabbed over. Although there was still some numbness, it was clear that it was no longer a problem. Furthermore, it was treated in time. It would not leave any scars in the future. Who saved me? This person should not be from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Leng Liusu's heart was filled with questions. If he was, he would definitely be by my side, guarding me. Suddenly, she vaguely remembered the dream she had the night before. It seemed like she saw her deceased father appear beside her. She even held his hand and told him not to leave her. It felt like it was real. Leng Liusu took out a set of clothes from her spatial ring. After she changed, she suddenly discovered 2 bottles of medicinal pills on the ground. She bent over and picked them up. When she opened them, a dense medicinal fragrance wafted out. It was clear that these medicinal pills were of a very high grade. She picked up the slip of paper that introduced the medicinal pills and read it carefully. The suspicions in her heart grew stronger. Who was it that saved me? Furthermore, they arranged everything so meticulously. She walked around but did not discover anything. She could not help but feel disappointed. She lowered her head and leaned against the tree again. However, she was astonished to discover that there were indeed traces of someone sitting there. Furthermore, it was not for a short period of time. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was one of the 3 great sects of the Great Qin nation. It had been passed down since the Tianwu dynasty. It had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. In the hearts of the people of the Great Qin nation, it was a holy land. As the name suggested, this was a sect that specialized in saber techniques. The martial techniques of the sect, be it movement techniques or mental cultivation techniques, were all related to saber techniques. It was a holy land for those who studied the saber. The Misty Sword sect was in the east and west, 1 saber and 1 sword. Since ancient times, the saber and the sword had never coexisted. The 2 sects had often fought in history, but the strength of the 2 sects had always been equal, and there was no clear winner. However, in recent years, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had suffered from a mysterious disaster 20 years ago. Many of the experts of the older generation in the sect had died, resulting in their strength dropping significantly. Even so, no one dared to underestimate the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had not lost the martial techniques that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. The system was still there. Sooner or later, they would reach the peak. It was located in the Lingyun mountain range, one of the 4 great mountain ranges in the Great Qin nation. There were 7 large peaks on the mountain, and it was one of the places with the most abundant spiritual energy in the Great Qin nation. If a cultivator cultivated here all year round, their cultivation would advance much faster than elsewhere. Furthermore, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had a perfect martial technique system and countless cultivation resources. As a result, the number of people joining the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was always full every year. At the foot of the Lingyun mountain range, there was a city no smaller than White City, called Saber City. Saber City was a city that belonged directly to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The land, shops, auction houses, and exchanges all belonged to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Saber City was also known as the outer sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Every year, the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would have 1 month to recruit disciples with outstanding talent to enter the inner sect. If one missed this 1 month, they would not have the opportunity to enter the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They could only take the test in the outer sect. There would be an opportunity to advance every half a year. Even the outer sect was not a place that just anyone could enter. Those who had not become a martial master before the age of 15 would not even have the opportunity to take the test. The threshold for the outer sect was already so high. It was easy to imagine how strict the requirements for the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion were. Even so, there would still be a large number of bladesmen entering this place every year. This was already the holy land of all bladesmen. As a bladesman, if they did not go to Saber City, if they did not attempt the famous Heavenly Saber Morning Soul formation, if they did not meet the famous bladesmen who lived here, it would be a great regret for them. After Xiao Chen and Leng Liusu parted for half a month, they finally arrived at the famous Saber City. Because they had been wrongly accused along the way, they had wasted a lot of time. Saber City was already in sight. There were many cultivators carrying large sabers on their backs. Some of them carried several sabers on their backs. Xiao Chen even saw a few earth-ranked spirit weapons. Before he entered Saber City, he could already feel the atmosphere. The feelings of bladesmen for the saber. In this place, if you did not carry a saber, you would be embarrassed to walk on the road. This was because when Xiao Chen walked on the road empty-handed, he was looked down upon. Everyone looked at him with a strange expression. There were even some extreme bladesmen who thought that he was being disrespectful to Saber City. Their gazes revealed killing intent. Xiao Chen felt very depressed. For the sake of convenience in combat, Xiao Chen did not equip the lunar shadow saber with a scabbard. If he took out the lunar shadow saber now, it would be too inconvenient. In the end, Xiao Chen could not stand the gazes of this group of people. He prepared to equip the lunar shadow saber with a scabbard before entering Saber City. Before entering the city, he was already being looked down upon. If he entered the city, he was afraid that someone would challenge him to a duel. On the two sides of Saber City, there were countless weapon shops. There were several sabers placed in front of these weapon shops. Xiao Chen asked around and found out that as long as one was strong enough to pick up one of these sabers, they would be able to obtain the saber for free. When Xiao Chen heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "This is interesting. I wonder how many sabers I can pick up with my physical strength." However, Xiao Chen did not have the time or interest to do so. He casually walked into a weapon shop and looked around. The shop only had sabers, there were no other weapons. There were all sorts of sabers, horse-chopping sabers, horizontal sabers, padeos, long sabers, thick sabers, and some sabers that Xiao Chen did not know the names of. This was an eye-opener for Xiao Chen. What was even more surprising was that these sabers all had some moonstone in them. They were all spirit weapons, there were even some profound ranked spirit weapons. This was truly shocking. An ordinary shop outside of Saber City actually had so many spirit weapons for sale. Here, spirit weapons were like goods sold at street stalls. There were not many people in the shop, business was very quiet. Xiao Chen looked around for a while and an idea popped up in his mind. There were so many spirit weapons here. If he casually bought a few and sold them, he would be able to make a huge profit. Xiao Chen looked at the shop owner and asked, "Boss, how much are the sabers here?" The shop owner was an old man in his 70s. His skinny face was filled with wrinkles, but he did not look lethargic. He gave off a very spirited feeling. The old man sized up Xiao Chen and smiled warmly. "You have not obtained the qualifications to enter the outer sect, right? In that case, you do not have the qualifications to purchase them." Xiao Chen was stunned, he did not expect there to be such a rule. He felt like he had been seen through. He smiled awkwardly. "I wonder if I can customize a scabbard." The old man smiled, "That is possible. Take out your saber and let me take a look." This old man's attitude was very gentle, making people feel at ease. Xiao Chen did not hesitate and took out the lunar shadow saber and handed it over to the old man. The old man held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and gently caressed it. His expression did not change as he smiled gently. "This is a good saber. I have not seen such a saber in many years. The arc of the saber is somewhere between a katana and a horizontal saber. The control of the flow is near perfect." Chapter 139. It takes into account both the strength and beauty of the saber. It is close to 2 meters long. Without a certain level of skill, one would not dare to forge this saber. It should be the work of a famous person. It has the style of the Haotian sect. Xiao Chen was surprised. He did not expect this old man to be able to guess so much just from the saber. However, the Haotian sect had already become a taboo topic. If this old man wanted to test him, Xiao Chen might get into trouble. Senior must be joking. The Haotian sect has already been destroyed for such a long time. How could my saber have the style of the Haotian sect? Xiao Chen denied. The old man handed the lunar shadow saber to Xiao Chen and smiled faintly. "Young man, don't be in a rush to deny anything. I have not confirmed anything yet. You need to remain calm so that you can hide yourself better. If you are in a rush to deny it, you will be exposed even faster." Although the Haotian sect was destroyed, the number of weapons they pass down is still very large. You don't have to worry about this. This old man does not care about these things. Xiao Chen was startled. He received the lunar shadow saber and looked at the old man's warm smile again. He felt a chill run down his spine. He was unfathomable. He smiled embarrassedly. "Many thanks for senior's teachings. I wonder how long this scabbard will take to complete. It is just a smelly old man. It is just that he has lived for a long time. It cannot be said to be teachings. I have a ready-made scabbard for your saber. After the old man spoke, he took out a dusty scabbard from the cabinet and wiped it gently. The old man's expression was very solemn. It was as though it was not a scabbard but something he loved the most. After a while, an extremely ancient-looking scabbard appeared before Xiao Chen in its entirety. Xiao Chen received the scabbard. He shook it and the lunar shadow saber entered the scabbard perfectly. The lunar shadow saber instantly disappeared after it entered the scabbard. If not for Xiao Chen holding it in his hand, he would not have been able to feel its existence. The old man revealed a smile. Xiao Chen's face was filled with shock. How could this be a coincidence? This scabbard was simply made for the lunar shadow saber. There was nothing strange about it at all. It was like it had been waiting there quietly for countless years, waiting for the lunar shadow saber to arrive. Xiao Chen recovered from his shock. Although he felt strange, he was very satisfied with this scabbard. He asked, "How much is this scabbard worth?" 10 inferior grade spirit stones. Xiao Chen was stunned for a while. Then, he smiled and said, "Senior, did you say it wrong or did I hear it wrong? 10 inferior grade spirit stones is enough to purchase a superior grade profound ranked spirit weapon. How can a scabbard be so expensive? Don't you think it's not worth it?" "Young man, this price is really not expensive at all. Feel it carefully. Don't you feel anything different?" The old man's expression did not change at all. He had a faint smile on his face as he spoke indifferently. Xiao Chen thought hatefully, "This guy is really old and cunning. It's like he's going to eat me alive." Although 10 inferior grade spirit stones was not much to Xiao Chen, it was not something he could casually take out. He had only obtained 20 inferior grade spirit stones from Yan Chenyan's body. In the end, Xiao Chen still handed the 10 inferior grade spirit stones to him. He really liked this scabbard and did not want to miss it. "Young man, since the saber is already sheathed, don't casually draw it out. If anyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion finds out that you possess the Thunder King's inheritance, you will die a miserable death." When Xiao Chen, who had already reached the door, heard this, he suddenly stopped. Cold sweat broke out on his back as he slowly turned around. There was a trace of killing intent in Xiao Chen's eyes as he stared at the smiling old man. His right hand grasped the saber hilt, preparing to draw it at any moment. "Old man, you seem to know too much." Xiao Chen focused all his attention on the old man. His heart was filled with shock. The Thunder King's inheritance was his greatest secret. This secret was even more important than the Blue Dragon martial spirit. The Thunder King had made too many enemies in his life. In his later years, he mysteriously disappeared and finally fell. This left too many questions for the future generations. This old man only took a glance at the lunar shadow saber and discovered Xiao Chen's identity. This was truly shocking. If the secret of him possessing the Thunder King's inheritance was exposed, he would not be strong enough and he did not have an invincible backer. It would not be that he did not have a place in the great Qin nation. The entire world would kill him for his treasures. The experts of the older generation would not be able to resist the temptation to make a move. Facing Xiao Chen's undisguised killing intent, the old man's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "Little friend, it seems like you do not respect the old and cherish the young. This is not good. Dang!" As soon as the old man finished speaking, the doors in the shop swayed and closed. The moment the doors closed, the space in the shop instantly darkened. Xiao Chen looked around and was horrified to discover that the surrounding shelves seemed to have disappeared. When he looked around, there was only a boundless darkness, he could not see the end. Ka Xie. Xiao Chen drew his saber and a cold light flashed on the pitch-black blade of the lunar shadow saber. There was a flash of saber light as he executed drawing the saber. Xiao Chen leaped into the air. He decided to make the first move and attack the old man. The old man's expression did not change as he stood in front of him. However, Xiao Chen felt that the distance between him and the old man was worlds apart. Xiao Chen maintained his posture in the air, holding his saber and leaping into the air. It was like he had crossed a great distance. However, the distance between him and the old man did not close at all. The old man was clearly in front of Xiao Chen, but it felt like he was even further away than the horizon, as if there was no end. This place actually materialized a small world. Furthermore, it was a small world that could be controlled. When Xiao Chen saw the old man's expressionless face, he was extremely astonished. Could this old man be a sage? Go out and calm down. In the future, you have to learn to respect the old and cherish the young. The old man waved his long sleeves gently and an irresistible force pushed Xiao Chen back. Xiao Chen's speed was extremely fast, the sound of the wind whistled in his ears. Bang! It was as if Xiao Chen had traversed through countless plains. With a loud boom, he landed on the ground. When he raised his head to take a look, he discovered himself. When he looked up, he discovered that he was lying on the street. There were people coming and going around him, looking at Xiao Chen strangely. After being looked at like a fool, Xiao Chen quickly got up and checked his body. He discovered that he was not injured at all. It was clear that the old man had held back. Materializing a small world and grasping the laws of space, these were abilities that only sages could have. Was that old man really a sage? Xiao Chen felt that it was impossible. This was because the aura that this old man gave him was not much stronger than in use. At best, he was only a martial monarch, he was definitely not a martial sage. Xiao Chen extended out his spiritual sense and closed his eyes. He extended his spiritual sense into the old man's shop. A strong aura appeared in his mind. After a while, Xiao Chen discovered the source of that aura. It was a rectangular wooden box in the shop. When Xiao Chen tried to extend his spiritual sense into the wooden box, he discovered a formless barrier blocking his spiritual sense. Xiao Chen did not give up and tried a few more times. However, he failed every time. Finally, he focused his spiritual sense on the old man's body. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows, he discovered an incomparably shocking phenomenon. Withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen muttered to himself, "This person does not have a martial spirit in his body." However, the aura he gave off clearly indicated that he was once a martial king expert. If that was the case, there could only be one reason. This expert had been severely injured by someone. His martial spirit was destroyed, and he became a cripple. Even so, Xiao Chen was still fearful of the old man. If that wooden box did not contain a complete holy weapon, it would be a king-grade attack-type secret treasure. Within the shop, the old man was an undefeatable existence. Xiao Chen shook his head. Since the old man did not have any ill intentions, there was no need for him to continue pestering him. After turning around and leaving, Xiao Chen still could not calm down. There are so many shops outside of Saber City. Could there be such experts hidden in all of them? With this thought in mind, Xiao Chen unknowingly walked into another shop. The owner of the shop was a middle-aged man. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up like torches as he stared at this person. He wanted to see if there was anything different about him. "Little brother, are you looking to buy something?" the middle-aged man asked with a trembling voice after being stared at by Xiao Chen. Hearing this, Xiao Chen recovered his wits. He felt that it was a pity, this person was really just an ordinary shop owner. There was nothing special about him. However, how should he answer the shop owner's question? That was a problem. After all, he already knew that the spirit weapons here would not be sold to outsiders. Xiao Chen thought for a while and decided to ask about Ling Tianyue. After all, he had already committed a heinous crime by assassinating Ling Liusu. He asked in a probing manner, "I want to ask around. Did anything big happen in Saber City recently?" The middle-aged man looked at Xiao Chen meaningfully and said, "If you want to talk about big things, there are big things happening in Saber City every day. There is nothing strange about that. However, something startling did happen a few days ago." The shop owner stopped talking. Xiao Chen understood tacitly and handed over a banknote. The shop owner received it and casually glanced at it. He discovered it was a banknote for 10,000 silver taels. The shop owner could not help but reveal a joyful expression. He beamed with joy and said, "A few days ago, the first young master of Lingyun Mountain Range's Tianyue Peak, Ling Tianyue, returned from outside and barged into the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation." Indeed, it was about Ling Tianyue. Xiaochen could not help but ask out of curiosity, why did he go to the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation? The shop owner chuckled and said, "Why? Of course, it was to draw the saber. There is a rumor in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion that has been passed down for thousands of years. As long as one barges into the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation and draws the subdivine weapon, they can immediately become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion." "Then, did he draw it?" Xiaochen asked interestedly. He did not expect there to be such a thing in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This was very surprising. If someone from the Misty Sword sect managed to draw this saber, would they become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Just thinking about it was interesting. The middle-aged boss sighed and said, "That's a secondary heavenly weapon, second only to heavenly weapons in the world. It can split mountains and rocks, shake the sky, and even sages have to avoid it. How can it be pulled out so easily?" Furthermore, the Heavenly Saber Morning Soul Formation has 81 small formations. They are all interconnected, forming a large formation. It has existed since the ancient era. If one wants to pass through it, not only does one need a cultivation realm, they also need an understanding of saber techniques. Chapter 140. How could he, a peak martial grand master, barge in? He was trapped in the 7th formation and was eventually rescued by his father. Xiao Chen's interest was completely piqued. He quickly asked, "Then what happened after that?" The boss was somewhat confused about what happened after that. He said, "I only heard about what happened after that. Ling Tianyue seemed to have done something wrong. His father wanted to lock him up. In the end, he crippled his own cultivation and took the initiative to lock himself up in Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Saber Prison." When he heard this news, Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. Although he did not know why Ling Tianyue locked him up in Saber Prison, it was good enough that he did not have to meet him. Holding the lunar shadow saber, Xiaochen headed straight for Saber City. After a while, he arrived at the city gates and started to pay the entrance tax. The method of paying the entrance tax here made Xiaochen feel astonished. The amount of the tax was actually determined by the weight of the saber the cultivator was carrying. No matter how many sabers you had, no matter what grade they were, how heavy they were, you would have to pay the tax. The saber itself weighs 85 kilograms. The scabbard weighs 70 kilograms. In total, it weighs 155 kilograms. Little brother, you have to pay 1155 silver taels as entrance tax. The two cultivators guarding the gates removed Xiao Chen's lunar shadow saber from the scale. They smiled as they spoke to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen sweated profusely in his heart. This was extraordinarily expensive. When he saw a brother carrying 7 sabers on his back, he felt even more depressed. He had to pay 10,000 silver taels. However, Xiaochen still had to pay up. He had no other choice. After he paid up, he left. After paying, the guards asked Xiaochen a few questions and recorded his place of birth, name, and age. After that, they handed a form to Xiaochen and said, "Go to the side and make an identity token. In the future, you will not have to pay the entrance tax when entering Saber City with this identity token." Xiaochen smiled gently. "Fortunately, I don't have to pay every time. Otherwise, I would have to deduct all of my assets." The processing of the identity card was relatively simple. After handing in the form and waiting for half an hour, the other party delivered a wooden card. The front side of the card was engraved with Xiao Chen's information, and the back side was engraved with a long saber and a mountain peak. After tying the wooden token to his waist, Xiao Chen finally entered the famous Saber City. The streets of the city were densely packed with cultivators carrying sabers. An arena could be seen every few hundred meters, and every arena was crowded with people. It was very lively. The martial heaven continent's love for martial arts had reached its pinnacle. Aside from being filled with bladesmen and having many arenas, Saber City was not much different from other cities. Xiao Qin inquired about the location of the city lord's mansion and quickly walked towards it. The city lord of Saber City was appointed by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He managed the entire outer sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The position of the city lord in the sect was second only to those peak masters. He also had a seat in the Elders' Assembly. At the entrance of the city lord's mansion, Xiao Qin handed the recommendation letter that Feng Feishue gave him to the guard. The red recommendation letter had the Feng clan's seal and emblem on it, as well as Feng Feishue's signature. The guard's eyes were pretty good. He was able to tell the authenticity of the recommendation letter very quickly. He told Xiao Qin to wait for a while he went to report the matter. Not long after, that person quickly ran over. He smiled apologetically and said, "Brother, the city lord is currently meeting with an important guest. You might have to wait for a while. Come with me to the side hall to rest first." The attitude of the city lord's mansion was very humble. Xiao Qin did not feel that he was an important person. He smiled faintly and followed the person into the city lord's mansion with a relaxed expression. After passing through a few courtyards and gardens, Xiao Qin was brought to the side hall. The guard immediately took his leave, leaving Xiao Qin there alone. Xiao Qin waited for a long time. In the reception hall of the city lord's mansion, Saber City's city lord, Gu Yunbin, sat on a wooden chair. Separated by a tea table was an old man. He looked at Xiao Qin's recommendation letter with an unhappy expression. Behind the two of them stood a youth about 16 or 17 years old. He carried a saber on his back and had a gloomy expression on his face. Occasionally, there would be a trace of hostility in his eyes. The old man placed the recommendation letter on the table and faced Gu Yunbin. He said in a deep voice, "Old Gu, we already agreed on this a week ago. Why did you change your mind at the last minute?" Gu Yunbin smiled faintly, "Old Zhang, don't make things difficult for me. Why don't you take a look at who gave me the recommendation letter? There is Miss Feng's signature on it. I can't not give Miss Feng face. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Feng clan have worked together for hundreds of years. They are the ones who provide the materials for the spirit weapons and battle armor in and out of the city. The most important thing is that they are the ones who handle the spirit stones produced by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Feng clan has the authority to recommend people. It was not me who said it, it was the previous pavilion master who said it. Furthermore, this old man also owes Miss Feng a favor. This time, I can return it to her." When old Zhang heard this, he took out a jade bottle with a flip of his palm. He gently opened the bottle cap and a dense medicinal fragrance instantly spread out. When one smelled it, they felt refreshed and refreshed. Gu Yunbin's expression changed slightly. He asked, "Old Zhang, is this the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill?" Old Zhang revealed a proud expression and said indifferently, "That's right, it is the rank 7 Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill. After consuming it, it can extend one's lifespan by 20 years. Originally, I intended to give it to old Gu after the matter was over." Gu Yunbin smiled bitterly and said, "Old Zhang, why do you have to do this? With your grandson's talent, as long as he stays in the outer sect for half a year, he will definitely have the opportunity to enter the inner sect. Furthermore, this old man will definitely take care of him. There will be no lack of spirit stones, medicinal pills, and martial techniques." Old Zhang looked at the youth beside him and said, "There is no need to say much about year's talent. However, half a year is too long. He has already wasted 16 years. I do not wish for him to waste any more time." Gu Yunbin got up and started pacing around the hall. He had a conflicted expression on his face. After a while, he finally made up his mind. He said, "I will think of a way. First, I will set up a mission to test this person. If this person does not have any ability, then forget it. If he cannot pass, I will arrange for him to enter the outer sect first. The spot in Tianyue Peak will be reserved for your son. Wait here for a while." After Gu Yunbin spoke, he headed to the side hall. After Gu Yunbin left, old Zhang immediately got up and went to the door. He called an old man over and explained the situation to him. Finally, he instructed, I do not wish for anything unexpected to happen. Whether Zhang Yi can enter the inner sect of Heavenly Saber Pavilion will affect the position of our Zhang clan in Yunyang City for the next few hundred years. When that person comes out later, keep an eye on him. If he does not complete it, then it is fine. However, if he does, you should know what to do, right? This old man was a medial grade martial saint. After he heard it, he said indifferently, Clan head, please rest assured. There will not be any problems with such a small matter. In the side hall, just as Xiao Chen's patients ran out, there was the sound of footsteps. The door to the side hall opened and an old man over 70 years old walked in with great strides. As he walked, he gave off an imposing aura. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense and was actually unable to sense the strength of this person. It was like his spiritual sense had sunk into the vast ocean. It was unfathomable, he could not help but feel astonished. When Gu Yunbin saw Xiao Chen, he smiled gently and said, My apologies, my apologies. I have something to do and have made little brother wait. Please don't take offense. As he spoke, he sized up Xiao Chen. When his gaze landed on Xiao Chen's body, Xiao Chen felt like he had been completely seen through, he could no longer keep any secrets. However, Xiao Chen did not panic. He had just seen a fake sage. This situation was nothing compared to what he had seen earlier. Xiao Chen stood up and performed a cupped fist salute. He said respectfully, Greetings, senior. As a junior, there is no harm in waiting. Gu Yunbin nodded to himself. Although Xiao Chen was only a superior grade martial master, he was able to remain calm and courteous under Gu Yunbin's aura. This was quite rare. Gu Yunbin gestured for Xiao Chen to sit down. He smiled and said, This old man is Gu Yunbin. If you do not mind, you can call me Old Gu. I have not asked for little brother's name yet. Yi Chen, Yi as in leaves, Chen as in birth. Yi Chen was Xiao Chen's current alias. The name Xiao Chen was currently wanted by the Yan clan, even in Shihe province. It was not good to use it directly. Gu Yunbin said politely again, Yi Chen, I have seen Miss Feng's recommendation letter. Her words speak highly of you. I will definitely give Miss Feng face. However, the inner sect of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is the backbone of the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It cannot be mixed in. I will have to test your strength in the end. Xiao Chen thought very quickly. He muttered, Old Gu, if you have something to say, just say it. Yi Chen is not a pretentious person. When Gu Yunbin heard this, he was stunned. He smiled and said, It has been a long time since a junior dared to speak to me like this. In that case, I will say it directly. I have a mission for you. If you can pass it, I will give you a chance to enter the inner sect. If you cannot, then go to the outer sect and temper yourself first. How about that? Xiao Chen did not think too much about it. He had missed the opportunity to enter the inner sect. Originally, he had intended to enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion through the outer sect. It was only because of Feng Feishue's recommendation letter that he had this opportunity. Even if he could not pass it, there was no loss. Without any hesitation, Xiao Chen agreed to Gu Yunbin's request under his somewhat surprised gaze. He did not try to bargain at all. Gu Yunbin smiled and said, I am gratified that you have such a mentality. However, I hope you do not get careless. The difficulty of the mission I am giving you is the same as the outer sect's end-of-year exam. The back door I opened for you will only save you half a year. Kill a rank 5 spirit beast at will in the Evil Wind Valley outside the city. In order to prevent cheating, bring the spirit beast's corpse back. I will check it personally. After Gu Yunbin spoke, he handed Xiao Chen some information about the Evil Wind Valley. Xiao Chen received it and did not look at it on the spot. He immediately took his leave and left the city lord's residence. After Xiao Chen found an independent courtyard in Saber City, he started to look through the information that Gu Yunbin handed him carefully. Evil Wind Valley was located to the west of Saber City. The cold qi there was extremely heavy. Most of the spirit beasts there were ice attributed. It was a place where the outer sect disciples would temper themselves. A rank 5 spirit beast was equivalent to a human martial saint. Aside from their intelligence and agility being slightly lower than humans, their pure strength could only be higher. After Xiao Chen took a look, he tossed the information onto the table. There was very little information, it was not very helpful. Chapter 141. With Xiao Chen's strength as a superior grade martial master, it would be extremely difficult for him to kill a rank 5 spirit beast. His chances of success were close to zero. Is the threshold of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect really that high? Xiao Chen frowned slightly, he had some doubts in his heart. If he were to carry out such a mission, it would not be an exaggeration to describe it as having a 90% chance of survival. Xiao Chen sighed and held the lunar shadow saber in his hand. With a huang-dang sound, he slowly drew the saber. A cold light flashed on the pitch-black blade. The sharp blade could slice through hair. Xiao Chen gently stroked the blade of the saber. A pretty figure appeared in his mind. He thought of everything that person had done for him. His gaze slowly turned resolute as he muttered, "No matter the reason you sealed yourself, I will do my best to wake you up. I will not make you cry again in this lifetime. Even if I have to give up my life, I will not hesitate. This is a promise." From the moment he held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and obtained the inheritance of the Thunder King, he had to keep this promise for life. Ka Xie. Xiao Chen sheathed the lunar shadow saber once again. He took out the Dragon Seizing Hands manual that he obtained from Yan Chenyan's body from the Universe Ring and started reading it. This was an Earth-ranked martial technique that required an inherited martial spirit to learn. It was similar to Xiao Chen's Dragon Subduing Slash. However, Xiao Chen had the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. An inherited martial spirit would not be a hindrance to him. In a situation where a heaven-ranked martial technique did not appear, an Earth-ranked martial technique was definitely the strongest martial technique in the world. Furthermore, an inherited Earth-ranked martial technique from a noble clan with an innate bloodline would be even stronger. This Dragon Seizing Hands was much stronger than the ancient martial technique that Xiao Chen obtained in the Ancient Remnant. Xiao Chen looked at it carefully for half a night and comprehended something in his heart. Pu Ci. Xiao Chen suddenly made his move. He circulated the changing character formula and the Dragon Seizing Hands at the same time. Xiao Chen shouted and smashed his right hand forward. A giant black hand appeared, and with a bang, the stone table in the courtyard was smashed into pieces. The stone fragments danced wildly in the air and shot out. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and revealed a faint smile on his face. Using the Battle Sage Origin to evolve it was indeed more efficient and easier to succeed. In the courtyard, Xiao Chen started to experiment continuously. Aside from the Dragon Seizing Hand, there was also Ji Chankong's Astral Sword Technique, Hua Yunfei's Bloody Massacre Sword Technique, and Duan Yuking's Inherited Martial Technique. They were all modified using the changing character formula. In the end, he discovered that although he could execute these martial techniques after trying them a few times, they exhausted too much essence. He could not easily execute them. Only this Dragon Seizing Hand, with a martial technique in hand and a clear understanding of its circulation path, would require less essence to execute. Such a martial technique had value in actual combat. After his essence was exhausted, Xiao Chen did not enter a state of cultivation to absorb spiritual energy. Instead, he took out an inferior grade spirit stone and absorbed it completely. His essence instantly returned to its peak state. After Xiao Chen completely absorbed the energy in the spirit stone, the pool of clear water in his dantian grew noticeably larger. This was a pleasant surprise. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "No wonder everyone likes spirit stones. This thing is very useful to cultivators. Furthermore, it does not have any side effects. In the future, I have to absorb one every day. I can't just leave it lying around." Only a person like Xiao Chen, who wanted to gain something without risking anything, would say such words without feeling any heartache. Even the disciples of noble clans would not dare to be so extravagant. After Xiao Chen recovered his spiritual energy, he continued practicing the dragon seizing hand. His spiritual energy was completely exhausted. Xiao Chen directly used the spirit stone to recover his essence, not wasting any time at all. After a while, when Xiao Chen had used the dragon seizing hand a few hundred times, he discovered some small tricks that he did not know about in other martial techniques. When the huge hand attacked the enemy, he could make the huge hand move accordingly. This way, its might would be even stronger. After discovering this trick, Xiao Chen was incomparably excited. He practiced from sunrise until the sky turned dark. Xiao Chen could use the dragon seizing hand skillfully. He made a clenched fist motion, retracting and releasing it effortlessly. Aside from the changing character formula, the main reason why Xiao Chen was able to reach such a level in one day was because of the pile of spirit stones on the ground that no longer had any luster. The spirit stones that Yan Qianyun originally needed to use for half a year were used up by Xiao Chen in one day. It was unknown what expression Yan Qianyun would have if he knew about this. As the sun rose in the east, Xiao Chen woke up from his deep sleep. After washing up, Xiao Chen took out the horn of the infant golden lion that he had obtained in Savage Forest and started carving it. Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless when challenging a martial saint spirit beast. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen decided to carve the Golden Lion King sculpture. Without Yu Ying's dragon qi, the might of Princess Yingyu's sculpture would be much lower. On the other hand, if Xiao Chen used the Golden Lion horn to carve the Golden Lion King, it would be much easier to control. This time, he was not as rushed as the previous time. He could only carve as he walked. Xiao Chen was very meticulous in his carving. The fine hairs on the surface of the sculpture could be seen clearly. After a while, a lifelike Golden Lion King sculpture was completed. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and placed it in his universe ring. Then, he took out an ink bottle and poured the blood of the golden holy beast into it. Then, he gently sliced his palm, allowing the essence blood in his body to merge with it. Xiao Chen wanted to carve a new talisman. Under the situation where his cultivation realm had not increased, he could only increase the quality of the materials in order to increase the might of the talisman. The Golden Lion King contained the bloodline of an ancient golden holy beast. It was much stronger than the blood of a regular spirit beast. If he used it to carve a new talisman, its might would definitely increase by half. After the essence blood and the golden holy beast's blood were completely merged together, Xiao Chen took out a brush and paper. He focused all his attention and started to carve, stroke by stroke. A faint golden light spread out from the tip of the brush. Xiao Chen drew very slowly, but he did not pause at all. As he moved up and down, it was very natural. The connection was perfect. In the end, he completed it in one breath. He successfully inscribed a rank 3 lightning-attributed talisman. After wiping the sweat off his forehead, Xiao Chen took a deep breath. Carving talismans was the most tiring thing. When one was highly focused, one could not afford to be careless. If one was not steady, the talisman would immediately go to waste. Furthermore, this would exhaust a lot of essence. Xiao Chen rested for a while before continuing to carve. He continued to carve more than 20 talismans in a row. His luck was not good for the last few, most of them failed. His success rate was only 50%. After the essence in his body was completely exhausted, Xiao Chen took out an inferior grade spirit stone. After a while, essence immediately filled his entire body. The clear spring in his dantian swelled up again. He was now a peak superior grade martial master. As long as Xiao Chen was willing, he could become a martial grand master at any time. This was the wondrous use of spirit stones. After everything was prepared, Xiao Chen quickly walked out of the city. He removed the wooden token from his waist and showed it to the guards at the city gates. There were no obstructions as he left the city. Evil Wind Valley was a very suitable place for outer disciples to train. There were many outer disciples forming groups at the western city gates. A few of them even invited Xiao Chen to go with them. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and rejected them. His mission could only be completed by himself. If there were other injuries on the spirit beast's corpse, he would fail the mission. There were many people going to Evil Wind Valley. Xiao Chen casually chose a group and followed behind. He did not have to worry about losing his way. Everyone moved very quickly. They arrived outside of Evil Wind Valley in an hour. What made Xiao Chen somewhat surprised was that the outside of Evil Wind Valley was different from what he had imagined. The outside was like a marketplace. There were stalls set up everywhere. The stalls were very simple. There was a layer of ragged cloth on the ground. All sorts of herbs, spirit beast spirit cores, and flesh were displayed on the cloth. These people were all wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer disciples. Occasionally, there would be peddlers coming over to haggle. The scene was very bustling and noisy. Selling the most complete map of Evil Wind Valley. The locations of all sorts of spirit beasts and herbs are marked. The lowest price here, definitely the lowest price here. A loud shout attracted Xiao Chen's attention. A map of Evil Wind Valley. Coincidentally, this was something he urgently needed. Xiao Chen walked over unhurriedly. He did not reveal any signs of impatience. This was a small trick when buying things. One must not let the other party see through one's true intentions. The stall owner was a young man wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer disciples. When he saw Xiao Chen, he quickly greeted him warmly. Xiao Chen took the map from him and looked at it carefully. After a while, he asked, "Why is there no mark on this map of the location of a rank 5 spirit beast?" The young stall owner smiled and said, "You should be new here. There are no fixed locations for rank 5 spirit beasts in Evil Wind Valley. Furthermore, no outer disciple would dare to provoke a rank 5 spirit beast. Isn't that just seeking death? The outer disciples would not provoke a rank 5 spirit beast." Why was it different from what Guyunbin said? Xiao Chen put down the map and asked, "Didn't you say that the end-of-year exam for outer disciples is to kill a rank 5 spirit beast?" The stall owner revealed an astonished expression. "How can that be? The end-of-year exam is normally based on the number of rank 4 spirit beasts you kill. Once you reach a certain standard, you will pass. This number changes every year, depending on the spirit beast. However, no matter how much it changes, I have never heard of any end-of-year exam requiring you to kill a rank 5 spirit beast. Isn't that just sending yourself to death? Even if it is an inner disciple, if they meet a rank 5 spirit beast, the sect instructs them to stay as far away as possible." "Old bastard, you actually dared to lie to me," Xiao Chen cursed in his heart. He had not expected that this Gu Yunbin, who looked like a senior expert, would actually come up with such a vicious plan, trying to kill him. "Brother, I think you might have been tricked by someone. The strength of a rank 5 spirit beast is comparable to a martial saint. How could we be a match for it? I advise you not to act rashly," that person said out of goodwill. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "I was just speaking casually. Thank you for the reminder, brother. I am called Yi Chen. May I know your name?" "Lu Chen, an outer disciple of Heavenly Saber Pavilion." Xiao Chen looked around at the other stall owners who were also outer disciples. He asked, "Brother Lu Chen, why are there so many people setting up stalls outside of Evil Wind Valley? Why are they doing business instead of cultivating?" Chapter 142. Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, "The treatment an outer disciple receives is only 1 spirit stone and 1,000 silver taels. It is not enough for cultivation. Furthermore, the competition is too intense. Everyone wants to enter the inner sect. Without enough money, it is impossible to maintain the status quo." Xiao Chen was deep in thought. This was probably the tragedy of a loose cultivator. If he had not been fortunate enough to rob a few noble clan disciples of their belongings, he might have to set up a stall like these people. Suddenly, Lu Chen said, "Brother Yi, actually, if you really want to find a rank 5 spirit beast, there are a few places on this map that you can definitely find." "What places?" Xiao Chen's interest was piqued. He still had to kill this rank 5 spirit beast. After all, he had made so many preparations. He could not return empty-handed. Lu Chen pointed to a spot on the map that was marked with a rank 5 herb. This is where the rank 5 herb, Yubing grass, is located. If you continue forward, you will find the rank 6 herb, ice crystal flower. There will definitely be rank 5 spirit beasts guarding this rank 6 herb. There are also here and here. When Xiao Chen heard this, he could not help but smile. The highest ranked herb on this map was only rank 5. It looked like this Lu Chen was hiding something. Excuse me for being nosy. I wonder why brother Xiao Chen wants to know about rank 5 spirit beasts. Lu Chen could clearly feel that Xiao Chen was only a superior grade martial master. If he met a rank 5 spirit beast, he would not have any chance of surviving. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, nothing much, I was just asking casually. How much is the map? I'll buy it. Seeing that Xiao Chen was unwilling to speak, Lu Chen tactfully did not continue asking. The map is very cheap, 200 silver taels for a map, and you call it not expensive? You must be treating me like a fool. With such a small amount of money, Xiao Chen could not be bothered to bargain. After he ransacked the Jiang clan's treasury, aside from the 20 million gold taels he spent on the Flying Snow Manor, there was still another 10 million gold taels and all sorts of spirit weapons and medicinal pills left in Xiao Chen's hands. Lu Chen took out a banknote worth 1,000 silver taels from the universe ring and took the map. When he saw the spatial ring on Xiao Chen's hand, an undetectable look of greed flashed in his eyes. However, it quickly disappeared. The smile on his face did not change as he returned the remaining money to Xiao Chen. He said enthusiastically, I wish brother Xiao Chen a good harvest. Let's continue working together in the future. When Xiao Chen was far away, he looked at Xiao Chen's back and did not hide the greed in his eyes. He quickly put away his stall and smiled at the people who came to take a look. Everyone, I'm sorry. I will not be doing business today. Under the strange gazes of the crowd, Lu Chen quickly left. He ran to the outskirts of Evil Wind Valley, to a desolate forest. In the forest, there were a few youths wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect disciples. There was a corpse lying in front of them. Boss, this fellow is a pauper. He only has 2,000 silver taels on him. Furthermore, it is broken silver. The medicinal pills he has are all trash rank 2 medicinal pills, someone cursed. The person leading the group was called Zhang Tuesday. He was an inferior grade martial Grand Master. He had an unfriendly expression on his face as he said in a sullen voice, there are still a few more months to the end of the year. If I do not advance to medial grade martial Grand Master, I will not be able to enter the inner sect. These people were all Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect disciples. They were loose cultivators. For the sake of cultivation resources, they would frequently ambush lone cultivators in Evil Wind Valley. Sometimes, they would even attack their own sect members. When Zhang Tu saw Lu Chen running over in a panic, he said unhappily, "What are you doing? Running for your life? Why are you running so fast?" Lu Chen panicked and quickly told Zhang Tu what he had seen earlier. Zhang Tu revealed an expression of deep thought. He said, "Are you sure he is alone? There is a spatial ring on his hand. He should be the young master of a large clan. How can he be alone?" Lu Chen nodded and said, "I am absolutely sure. Furthermore, this person seems to be new. He does not know anything and asked a lot of strange questions. His cultivation seems to be only peak superior grade martial Grand Master. To be able to spend 1,000 silver taels on a whim, this person is definitely not poor. Furthermore, he does not care about the price of his items. He is definitely a spendthrift from a young age. Boss, let's do it," someone at the side said with a gleam in his eyes when he heard Lu Chen's words. Indeed, he is a superior grade martial Grand Master. Boss, you can deal with him alone. Furthermore, the few of us are at least medial grade martial Grand Masters. There will not be any problems. Indeed, it is not like boss has not done it before. This person might even have spirit stones on him. Boss, you still have to continue. Zhang Tu revealed an uncertain expression. His rationality told him that something was wrong. A superior-grade martial Grand Master going to inquire about a rank 5 spirit beast was definitely not simple. However, the greed in his heart was like a flood, slowly breaking his rationality. When he heard the word spirit stones, the greed in Zhang Tu's heart overcame his rationality. He consoled himself by saying, no matter what, he is only a superior-grade martial Grand Master. After he made up his mind, he said, Lu Chen, you should have left some medicinal powder on that person, right? Lu Chen chuckled, that is for sure. I have already smeared some medicinal powder on the map. I can find that person at any time. When one was outside, the human heart was unfathomable. One should not expose one's wealth. This was a very simple principle, especially in the Tianwu continent. The battles between humans were much more bloody than those between animals. One had to pay even more attention to it. It was not that Xiao Chen did not understand this principle. Unfortunately, he did not have much experience and accidentally exposed himself. He thought that it was not important. However, in this evil wind valley, the human heart was sinister. How could he judge others by his own standards? Evil Wind Valley was surrounded by tall mountains. It was not appropriate to call it a valley, as it was simply too big. Not only was there a forest in the valley, there was also a river flowing around it. There were strange rocks everywhere, it was vast and boundless. There were many cultivators coming and going in the valley. After they crossed a river, Xiao Chen entered the dense forest in front. The forest was very big, the crowd immediately dispersed. As Xiao Chen continued to walk forward, he saw very few people. Pooh! Bai jumped out of the spirit blood jade with a joyful cry. Aside from being in the house, Xiao Chen had not let it out for the past few days. The main reason was that it was too eye-catching. Its snow-white fur was not tainted by any impurities. It also had a pair of watery eyes filled with spirituality. With one look, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. Within the forest, Bai was very excited. The moment it landed on the ground, it immediately ran far away. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and ignored it. With its speed, no spirit beast would be able to catch it. However, Xiao Chen still warned it not to run too far. It was not because it was afraid of those ferocious spirit beasts, but because he was afraid of being seen by other cultivators and attracting unnecessary trouble. Xiao Chen took out the map and looked at it carefully. In the end, he decided to go to the ice crystal flowers to take a look, one by one. Regardless of what Gu Binyun was thinking, he had already made so many preparations. He had to give it a try. If Gu Binyun were to play tricks on him, he would fall out with him. Within Evil Wind Valley, Zhang Tu's group was following the route that Xiao Chen took. They followed behind him unhurriedly. Occasionally, Lu Chen would sniff the air. Lu Chen's martial spirit was an ordinary dog. It was not very useful in battle, but it was very strong when it came to tracking people. This was not the first time they had used such a method. They all had relaxed expressions and did not seem to mind. Boss, he might be going to the ice crystal flowers, Lu Chen said after sniffing the air for a while. Zhang Tu frowned slightly, his expression was somewhat gloomy. He muttered, could it be that he is really going to find a rank 5 spirit beast? He is just a superior grade martial master, where does he get his confidence from? Lu Chen, who was at the side, heard Zhang Tu's muttering. He said, he might have some kind of secret treasure. This time, he might have really caught a big fish. When Zhang Tu heard this, he went into deep thought. After a while, he said solemnly, this should be the only reason. This brat is definitely not an ordinary superior grade martial master. We cannot follow our usual plan. Fourth brother, how many more times can you use that thing of yours? Zhang Tu turned around and said to a skinny cultivator. That skinny cultivator took out a very ordinary piece of metal. He said in astonishment, 2 or 3 times should not be a problem. However, is there a need to use this thing to deal with a superior grade martial master? Zhang Tu took the piece of metal and a ruthless look flashed in his eyes. He said, "This brat is definitely not an ordinary person. You will not go wrong listening to me. I will personally make a move later. We will take a shortcut and set up an ambush. We will try to deal with him in one move and not cause any other problems." Although this map was very expensive, the locations of the spirit beasts marked on it were very accurate. Xiaochen followed the directions on the map and successfully avoided some of the spirit beasts that lived in groups. Along the way, he only met a few wandering spirit beasts and dealt with them easily. Xiaochen dealt with another rank 3 spirit beast blocking his way. Following the principle that even the smallest mosquito was meat, Xiaochen extracted its spirit core and placed it in his universe ring. After everything that had happened the previous night, Xiaochen took out the map again and looked at it carefully. At this moment, Bai came out of nowhere and leaped gently onto Xiaochen's shoulder. When it saw the map in Xiaochen's hand, it went over to take a look out of curiosity. Pu ci. Before it got close, it sneezed. A layer of powder started to spread out from the map. Xiaochen frowned and held his breath. He quickly threw the map in his hand to the ground. Xiaochen took out a piece of white paper from the universe ring and collected all the dust particles one by one. The green spirit core in Xiaochen's mind extended out along with his spiritual sense. It carefully analyzed the composition of the powder on the white paper. This green dot was a spirit core that only alchemists had. Xiaochen had not used it for a long time already. At this moment, it came in handy. Withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiaochen casually tossed the white paper away. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. It was just some powder with a special smell. Fortunately, it was not poison. If it was, he would have fallen for it already. The corner of Xiaochen's mouth curled up into a cold smile. He picked up the map again and said indifferently, "The human heart is something that no one can understand." He extended his spiritual sense into the surroundings. As he walked, everything within 800 meters appeared in his mind. Everything appeared in his mind. A flower, a tree, and some martial artists who were fighting with the spirit beasts. None of them could escape. After a while, Xiaochen sensed something on the path to the ice crystal flower's birth. 6 figures were hiding in the surrounding trees with a clear purpose. Lu Chen's figure was among them. Chapter 143. When the 6 people on the tree saw Xiaochen approaching, they all became cautious. They held their breaths and became extremely quiet. Zhang Tu held the mysterious piece of metal in his hand. His palm was actually sweating. He could not help but curse in his heart, "It is just a superior grade martial master, there is no need to be so nervous." His expression slowly eased up. As he watched Xiaochen get closer, he could not help but slowly count down in his heart. 10, 9, 8, 7, go. When he counted to 10, he tossed the piece of metal in his hand forward. The piece of metal immediately expanded with the wind. After a while, it was the size of a small mountain. It pressed down on Xiaochen's head. There was a loud rumbling sound as the piece of metal landed on the ground. The ground started to tremble, and some of the surrounding trees were toppled. "Not good!" Zhang Tu exclaimed. In the instant the piece of metal was about to be thrown, there was a flash of lightning. Xiaochen's figure suddenly disappeared. "Ah!" There was a loud miserable cry. In the quiet forest, it was very horrifying. Lu Chen's body was chopped in half, and he fell from the tree. Xiaochen stood on the tree branch and looked at the piece of metal on the ground. He was startled. Fortunately, he had sensed Lu Chen's killing intent in advance. Otherwise, if he was caught off guard, Xiaochen would definitely fall for it. With such a big thing pressing down, even a martial saint would not feel good. Zhang Tu quickly landed on the ground and put away the piece of metal. He wanted to take it out again. However, Xiaochen did not want to give him the chance. He leaped into the air and flew down from the tree. He turned into a blue dragon and roared angrily. A cold light flickered and a saber light appeared. Xiao Chen's figure landed in front of Zhang Tuesday. He did not hesitate to quickly draw his saber, drawing the saber. The saber created a strong wind. However, the saber light was faster than the wind. This startled Zhang Tuesday. He quickly gave up on taking out the piece of metal and quickly retreated. When Xiao Chen saw him retreat, the corner of his mouth curled up into a faint smile. There was a clap of thunder behind him, and the electric light passed through the ground to Xiao Chen's feet. Finally, it gathered on the lunar shadow saber. In an instant, the purple light shone brightly. Xiao Chen did not even have to release the power of the demonic core in the lunar shadow saber. The electric light was already so resplendent that it was dazzling. He took a step forward, and his saber drew a long purple arc in the air. On the arc, countless electric arcs flickered, bewitching and beautiful. Zhang Tu knew that he could not avoid this arc, so he used up all his essence qi, forming an essence qi barrier around his body. He wanted to take it head-on. However, after Xiao Chen refined the Thunder Crash Saber technique, its might was much stronger than before. The essence barrier that he hastily gathered could not block it at all. Puchi! The essence barrier on Zhang Tu's chest was sliced open, and the purple light tore through his clothes. It left a long gash on the yellow-ranked battle armor he was wearing. After that, it left a scarlet wound on his chest, and blood spurted out. The horrifying electric light quickly entered his body. It swept through the meridians in his body like breaking dead leaves. The essence in his body instantly turned chaotic, and he temporarily lost control of his body. Rushing heaven chop! Xiao Chen shouted, and his body soared into the sky. The saber pierced forward without any fancy moves, and in the next moment, it was going to pierce through Zhang Tu's chest. No! Zhang Tu revealed an expression of extreme horror in his eyes as he said in despair. In that instant, he thought of many things. He thought of the excitement he felt when he first came to Saber City. He thought of the oath he made when he entered the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect. One day, he would become the strongest bladesman in the world. However, all this was soon buried in the merciless reality. Those people with similar talent to him relied on the resources of their clans, and their cultivations quickly surpassed his. 1 year passed, 2 years passed. His hopes of entering the inner sect became slimmer and slimmer. He did not know when it started, but he forgot his oath and fell to his current state. Suddenly, Zhang Tu was dispirited to discover that he was about to die. In this final battle, he did not even draw his saber. He only wanted to rely on unorthodox methods to deal with a superior-grade martial master. He tried hard to control his right hand, wanting to pull out the long saber at his waist, but just as he touched the hilt. However, just as he touched the saber hilt, the lunar shadow saber pierced through the wound on Xiao Chen's chest. With a bang, his body shattered into countless pieces. The saber fell to the ground with a huang-dang sound. Even when he died, he did not draw it. Xiao Chen turned around and quickly grabbed the piece of metal in the air. When the remaining 4 people saw that Xiao Chen dealt with them in an instant, the strongest among them, Zhang Tu, turned pale with fright. They turned around and ran. Dragon seizing hand! Xiao Chen shouted loudly and a huge black palm descended from the sky. With a loud bang, it smashed the 4 of them to the ground. Xiao Chen used the dragon seizing hand again. He did not move from his original position and controlled the huge black palm to form a fist with his right hand. Boom! A cultivator who was struggling to stand up was hammered down by the huge black fist. He cried out miserably and his body was smashed into a pile of meat paste. Boom! 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 There were another 3 loud sounds. The black fist carried an overwhelming force as it smashed down continuously. The huge force landed on the ground. The ground trembled continuously. The trees on both sides were swaying left and right. They swayed non-stop. After a long time, they slowly stopped swaying. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and looked coldly at the 5 corpses on the ground. He searched the corpses clean and quickly left the place. The commotion earlier was too big. Many cultivators were attracted by it and were rushing over. Xiao Chen did not dare to stay any longer. Not long after Xiao Chen left, a heavenly saber pavilion outer disciple rushed over. He carried a thick saber on his back and there was a long scar on the right side of his face. This made his originally young face look very sinister. When he saw the corpses on the ground, he did not seem too shocked. Zhang Tu's corpse had already been smashed into many pieces. It looked very disgusting. Blood dyed the ground red. It was impossible to make out this person's identity. He searched the ground for a while and found a black metal medallion. Zhang Tu's name was written on the front and the words Heavenly Saber Pavilion was carved on the back. Zhang Tu was actually killed by someone in Evil Wind Valley. The scarred man read it out slowly. His eyes revealed an expression of extreme shock. There was an undetectable sorrow in the depths of his eyes. Pooh! 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 A series of footsteps could be heard. Many Heavenly Saber Pavilion outer disciples heard the commotion and rushed over. When they saw the corpses on the ground, they were greatly shocked. It's Lu Chen's group. This is their metal medallion. Very soon, someone found their identity medallion. They were all outer disciples. Naturally, they recognized Lu Chen's group. When they saw their miserable deaths, they felt fear in their hearts. An outer disciple wearing embroidered robes walked over to the scarred man. When he saw the name carved on the metal medallion, he was stunned. Then, he smiled and said, "I did not expect Zhang Tu to be dead as well. I thought he had escaped. Lu Mingfei and the others, were you the one who killed them? Zhang Tu was your biggest competitor when you entered the inner sect." He looked at the scarred man with a smile that was not a smile and asked in a mocking tone. He did not care about this person at all. Zhang Tu is actually dead. Out of the 10 spots to enter the inner sect, he was one of the hot favorites. It is such a pity that he died like that. I wonder who did it. They actually killed 6 outer disciples right under the nose of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They are too courageous, they do not care about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion at all. It is clear that the person who did it has a higher cultivation than Zhang Tuesday. This fellow must have met a tough opponent. He has been beating up a bird for a long time and finally got pecked by a bird. When the group of outer disciples heard the man in embroidered robes say Zhang Tu's name, they all burst into an uproar. Some shook their heads and sighed, some rejoiced in their hearts. With this, they would have one less opponent for the year-end exam. The treatment of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner disciples was much better than that of the outer disciples. Just the spirit stones they received every month was 10 times that of the outer disciples. Furthermore, they had the opportunity to receive personal guidance from a martial king. They could also choose all sorts of high-ranked martial techniques and superior-grade medicinal pills. The mountain range was filled with spiritual energy. It was not something that Saber City could compare to. However, there were only 10 outer disciples who could enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion every year. This resulted in intense competition in the outer sect. When the many cultivators present heard the news of Zhang Tu's death, they all rejoiced in their hearts. Lu Mingfei stood up and grasped the metal medallion tightly. He looked at the youth in embroidered robes beside him and said coldly, "Yan Tianzheng, you better pray that you are not in the same group as me during the year-end exam. Otherwise, I will definitely kill you." After Lu Mingfei said this, he left with large strides. Yan Tianzheng looked at Lu Mingfei's back and mocked, "Just a commoner's disciple and he wants to fight with me for the right to enter the inner sect? Wishful thinking." On the other side, in a forest, Xiao Chen casually laid down a small, one-time use illusion formation. Then, he carefully studied the metal medallion in his hand. This metal medallion could actually grow with the wind. It instantly became the size of a small mountain. It was very similar to the growing soil that Yu the Great used to control the flood in ancient times. Could this be a secret treasure? Xiao Chen asked suspiciously as he looked at the metal medallion in his hand. However, when he extended his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen could not feel any formation patterns or Taoist rhymes on it. There was no trace of a secret treasure at all. Just as Xiao Chen was feeling puzzled, an idea flashed in his mind. He remembered that there was an extremely precious refining material in the compendium of cultivation. Astral iron. This was a natural treasure. According to legend, it was made from polished meteorites that came from the outer realm. After these meteorites were polished, they would have all sorts of strange effects. Some could summon boundless flames, ice, and hurricanes. Some could even create a small world. Some could even summon creatures from the outer realm. It was very strange. These star irons had been wandering in the universe for hundreds of thousands of years. During such a long period of time, they had been exposed to the impurities in the universe and all kinds of strange rays. Therefore, it was not strange for them to have some strange special effects. This was definitely a piece of astral iron, Xiao Chen said joyfully. This was because there was a clear record of it in the compendium of cultivation. Although it was only briefly mentioned, it did indeed exist. Although the special effects of the astral iron were different, they all had a common use. That was to repair all sorts of divine weapons and secret treasures. Even the strongest divine weapons and emperor-grade secret treasures could be completely repaired. Chapter 144. Xiao Chen took out the exquisite copper bell from the universe ring. He looked at the severely damaged patterns on it and smiled faintly. These should be able to be repaired. As for the chaotic patterns inside, I can slowly sort them out in the future. He placed the copper bell beside his hand and his spiritual sense wrapped around the astral iron. The boundless purple flame in his right eye started to spin quickly. So, the purple flame leaped out from his right eye and burned the astral iron. The astral iron was extremely hard. Regular flames would not be able to melt it. Xiao Chen's purple thunder true fire, which had formed its origin, needed to be extremely hot before it could barely melt it. Time slowly went by. 4 hours had passed unknowingly. The astral iron in the purple flame did not show any signs of melting. Sweat covered Xiao Chen's forehead, it dripped down continuously. The horrifying temperature of the flame made his face turn red. Bang! Xiao Chen tossed out another dull spirit stone. This was already the third inferior grade spirit stone that he had tossed out. The purple thunder true fire burned for a long time, exhausting a lot of essence. Actually, with Xiao Chen's current cultivation realm, he was too anxious to melt the astral iron. The ancient immortal cultivators on Earth only had the ability to melt the astral iron after they reached the Yuanying realm. After all, it was an item from the outside world. It was not an ordinary natural treasure, it was not that easy to refine. Xiao Chen gently wiped the sweat off his forehead. He was not too anxious in his heart. With his flushed face, he looked at the astral iron in the purple flame with a resolute gaze as it continued to burn. When Xiao Chen used up the 10th inferior grade spirit stone, the astral iron finally changed. A drop of scarlet liquid slowly dripped down into the jade bottle that Xiao Chen had prepared. Just at this moment, something strange happened. A faintly discernible evil spirit rushed out from the astral iron. It let out a horrifying wail and charged at Xiao Chen. This was a mysterious ominous spirit in the universe. Almost every piece of astral iron had one. The ominous spirit did not have a physical body. It would only devour the souls of humans. No martial technique would have any effect on it. No one knew what was going on with the formation of the evil spirit. It was just like the strange special effects of the star iron. No one could understand it with common sense. Xiao Chen understood and did not panic too much. He had already expected the ferocious spirit to appear. Just as the ferocious spirit was about to charge into Xiao Chen's mind, his eyes suddenly shot out 2 rays of violet light that pierced through the ferocious spirit. A black mist spread out, and the ferocious spirit continuously howled before turning into nothingness. This purple light was something that Xiao Chen would shoot out every time he broke through a major realm. He had no idea what it was for. However, Xiao Chen had a feeling that this purple light could destroy the ominous spirit that specialized in devouring souls. This was because the same scene seemed to have appeared in his life before. When Xiao Chen was planning to melt the astral iron, he had already made up his mind. He would make use of this opportunity to advance to Martial Grand Master and use the violet light to kill the ominous spirit. Although this was not the best time to advance, he had no other choice in order to eliminate this ominous spirit. The instant the ominous spirit disappeared, the astral iron had completely melted. Xiao Chen got up and stretched himself. He was not in a rush to check on the situation after his advancement. He picked up the porcelain bottle on the ground. After the astral iron, which was the size of a small mountain, was calcined, there were only 10 odd drops of scarlet liquid left behind. Ta! Xiao Chen slowly poured the liquid onto the copper bell. When the scarlet liquid landed on the copper bell, it instantly seeped in. It looked very strange. When the 10 odd drops of scarlet liquid entered the copper bell, it released a scarlet glow. With a schwa sound, it immediately flew into the air. Lines appeared on the surface of the copper bell. It was like an invisible hand was carving. The cracks and holes on the copper bell were slowly mended. A faint righteous chi came from the copper bell. When standing beside it, it made one feel very calm. Xiao Chen revealed an expression of joy. He leaned against the copper bell in the air and said, "It is indeed a secret treasure used by the ancient sages. I did not waste 10 odd inferior grade spirit stones in vain." Dang! The last line of lines on the copper bell was completed. A complete ancient bell appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. With a schwa sound, the copper bell became as tall as a person. A drawn-out bell chime resounded. This sound was very calm. Xiao Chen stood below the copper bell. He felt that his inferior grade martial grand master cultivation had stabilized significantly under the influence of this melodious bell chime. Xiao Chen looked up. The interior of the copper bell was pitch black, it was boundlessly deep. He could not help but feel excited. There seemed to be a small world inside. A secret treasure that can automatically materialize a small world. Could it be an incomplete king-grade secret treasure? Xiao Chen frowned slightly as he looked at the deep space. He felt suspicious. A black banner flew out from Xiao Chen's eyes. The banner carried Xiao Chen's spiritual sense and flew into that black space. Boom! The world before Xiao Chen suddenly changed. A space of nothingness appeared before him. The black banner under his feet continued to descend. Bang! After descending for an unknown period of time, the black banner stabbed into the air with a schwa sound. A piece of land immediately materialized. A small world started to spread out from the ground below the banner. A strong wind blew, dust flew everywhere, and the roars were like thunder. The scene that the small world materialized was that of an ancient battlefield. Countless humanoid creatures stood densely in the air. Some of these creatures had 3 heads and 6 arms. They held all sorts of weapons in their hands. Black chi lingered around them as they stood in the air. Some of them had wings that looked like that of a bird. They floated in the air and formed hand seals with their hands. Streams of destructive energy descended from the sky. Even further away, there were 7 figures that were hundreds of meters tall. Their heads reached the sky and their feet touched the ground. Boundless black clouds gathered above their heads, stretching out for thousands of kilometers. There was no end in sight, layer upon layer, vast and boundless. Among them, a human laughed loudly. His laughter was filled with a heroic spirit, causing one's blood to surge uncontrollably. A huge copper bell floated above his head. The sound of the bell was like a divine sound spreading out in all directions. Ripples that could be seen with the naked eye appeared and spread out into the sky. The countless humanoid creatures standing in the air instantly dispersed like they were breaking dry weeds. He stomped his feet, causing the ground to shake, the sky to tremble, and the mountains to shatter. He stretched out his hand and his 5 fingers became infinitely large. When he pressed them together, the figures in the air were crushed like ants. Xiao Chen stood where he was. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. He said in astonishment, "This is the dragon seizing hand. Is this person the Yen clan's patriarch?" What a horrifying power! He broke the laws of this space with just one palm strike. Standing in this battlefield, Xiao Chen was like a passerby. The demonic soldiers shrouded in black qi passed by him, as though they did not see him. They charged at the Yen clan's patriarch. However, the Yen clan's patriarch was like an undefeatable existence. The copper bell above his head shot down strands of yellow qi, blocking all the attacks. No one could get close to him. Finally, in the distance, among the 7 huge figures, a cold voice came, the strongest defensive secret treasure of the human race, the Eastern Emperor Bell? The moment the voice sounded out, the 7 huge black figures rushed over. As they moved, the ground seemed to shrink to an inch. In the blink of an eye, they arrived before the Yen clan's patriarch. The surrounding people immediately retreated. There were loud explosions and large holes appeared in space. The Eastern Emperor bell rang out continuously. Even though the Yen clan's patriarch was fighting 1 against 7, he did not fall into a disadvantage. However, as the battle dragged on, cracks appeared on the Eastern Emperor bell. In the end, it could not hold on any longer, and the Tao patterns shattered. With a boom, it turned into a small copper bell and fell from the sky, landing at Xiao Chen's feet. The Yen clan's patriarch vomited a mouthful of blood and laughed loudly. Then, his body exploded. He had actually chosen the most decisive way to die. The instant he exploded, the ancient battlefield disappeared without a trace. In the boundless desolate land, there was only a small, damaged copper bell left. This proved that everything that had just happened was real. Xiao Chen picked up the broken copper bell and wiped off the dust on it. He sent a strand of his divine sense into the copper bell and discovered that there was no imprint left behind by the Yen clan's patriarch. This made things much easier. Xiao Chen left his divine sense inside and turned it into an imprint. Then, he slowly merged it with the Eastern Emperor bell. After that, he controlled the black flag and broke through this space to retreat. The black flag rushed into Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen's divine sense returned to his body. He looked at the Eastern Emperor bell in the sky again. Xiao Chen already had a strange connection with it. Xiao Chen waved his hand and the huge copper bell shrunk to the size of a thumb and landed in Xiao Chen's palm. He muttered, "Eastern Emperor bell, the strongest defensive secret treasure of the human race. I wonder how much of its might I can bring out now." Xiao Chen placed the copper bell back into the universe ring and walked out of this illusion formation. If someone passed by, they would find it extremely strange. Xiao Chen's body seemed to have appeared out of thin air. "Hey!" An indistinct sigh entered Xiao Chen's ears. Xiao Chen's expression turned grave and he extended out his divine sense. Earlier, he had felt that there was a figure following him after he left the city lord's residence. However, this feeling was very vague. Now that he had advanced to inferior grade martial grand master, his senses were more than twice as strong as before. This feeling was even stronger. Xiao Chen carefully scanned the area with his spiritual sense a few times but did not discover anyone. Xiao Chen said doubtfully, "Could it be that I overreacted? If there really was someone, my spiritual sense should have discovered them long ago." Shaking his head, Xiao Chen recollected his thoughts. He kept an eye on this as he continued forward. Just at this moment, Bai's figure ran over from afar. There were a few stalks of herbs in his mouth. He leaped over to Xiao Chen like he was presenting a treasure. Xiao Chen received it and took a look. He could not help but smile. It was a few stalks of rank 5 yubing grass. Xiao Chen originally did not intend to pick them. He did not expect Bai to help him obtain them. Chapter 145. He had already obtained the yubing grass, so the ice crystal flower should be in front. Xiao Chen carried Bai in his embrace. He was almost at the location of the ice crystal flower, so he could not let it run around blindly. After a while, Xiao Chen walked out of the dense forest. He took out the map and looked at it. According to the markings on the map, the ice crystal flower grew on a cliff in front of him. Due to the protection of the rank 5 spirit beast, the ice ape, a regular outer disciple would not dare to come and snatch it even though they knew there was a rank 6 herb here. The instant he walked out of the forest, the sunlight shone on Xiao Chen's body once again. When he looked up, he could already vaguely make out a tall cliff. This was the border of Evil Wind Valley. Xiao Chen patted Bai's head. Under its unwilling gaze, he placed it into the spirit blood jade. He extended his spiritual sense forward, but he did not see the rank 5 spirit beast, the ice ape. Instead, he saw a few young ice apes. They were only rank 4, resting in a corner. Looks like I made a wasted trip. There are no rank 5 spirit beasts here. Xiao Chen sighed slightly and prepared to leave. However, he changed his mind. Since he was already here, it would not be too late to take a look at the ice crystal flower. After all, it was a rank 6 herb. Even if he did not need it, he could still sell it for a good price. After he thought of this, Xiao Chen quickly ran towards the cliff. Just as he was about to reach it, he heard a startled cry. Xiao Chen stopped and looked towards the source of the sound. At the bottom of the cliff, there was a tall and sturdy youth. He was holding a huge axe in his hand, blocking the attacks of 3 ice apes. On the cliff behind him, there was a petite figure carrying a basket on her back. She was nimbly climbing up the cliff. In a crevice above her head, there was a flower petal that was flickering with a cold light. Xiao Chen could not help but feel puzzled. He had clearly swept this place with his divine sense and did not find any cultivators. How could there be 2 more people for no reason? Xiao Chen looked at the 2 again and was shocked to find that the 2 of them had not condensed their martial souls. They were only at the soul refinement stage and were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. No wonder he did not notice them earlier. These 2 people were not martial artists at all. There was no fluctuation of essence in their bodies, so he directly ignored them. 2 commoners coming to chill Wind Valley. If this isn't courting death, then what is? Xiao Chen said with some blame in his heart. They really didn't take their lives seriously. The girl on the mountain wall had already climbed to the bottom of the ice crystal flower. She was only 1 step away from plucking it. Pooh! However, at this moment, a young ice ape broke through the defense of the tall and sturdy youth. With a few leaps, it arrived behind the girl. No! The eyes of the tall and sturdy youth guarding below turned bloodshot as he shouted. He threw the huge axe in his hand at the ice ape. The ice ape nimbly dodged the huge axe. It stretched out its huge hand and smashed it at the girl. When the girl turned her head to look, she was frightened pale. She lost her balance and fell down. Because the tall and sturdy youth no longer had a weapon, he was smashed to the ground by the 2 ice apes. In an instant, his body was covered with bloody wounds. It was a tragic sight. Lightning evasion. With a flash of lightning, Xiao Chen instantly arrived beside the youth. The lunar shadow saber glowed with a 2-meter saber light. This was the first time Xiao Chen had truly condensed a saber light. This was a martial technique that only martial grandmasters could use. Pu Ci. The saber light hacked violently at the ice ape that was beating up the tall and sturdy youth. With a ka-sief sound, the ice ape's arm was chopped off. However, a layer of ice appeared on its body, preventing the saber from penetrating any further. Xiao Chen was somewhat surprised that he did not manage to chop it in half. The ice ape that had its arm chopped off let out a pained wail, just like the perfectly fine ice ape beside it. The ice ape gave up on attacking the youth lying on the ground. A ferocious glint appeared in its eyes. The ice ape's sharp palm carried a cold wind as it ruthlessly smashed at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen took a step back. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and gathered on the saber. The lunar shadow saber moved in a purple arc. The arc flickered with electricity. In an instant, the saber cut open the chests of the 2 ice apes. The electricity shook violently and the 2 ice apes were immediately knocked back. Xiao Chen did not continue chasing. He looked at the petite girl that had fallen into the air. A silver warship flew out from his eyes and caught the girl in an instant. The ice ape on the mountain wall roared and dived at Xiao Chen. With a huang-dang sound, the lunar shadow saber returned to its scabbard. Dragon seizing hand. A huge black hand appeared from nowhere. It carried an unparalleled force and smashed the ice ape into the mountain wall with a bang. Turning palm into fist. The huge black hand clenched tightly. It seemed like it had the force of 1,000 kilograms as it smashed violently at the ice ape on the mountain wall. There was a loud rumbling sound. The mountain wall trembled and many rocks fell off. A large hole appeared in the mountain wall. The ice ape was smashed in violently. Blood leaked out from the corner of its mouth. Unexpectedly, its body was not smashed into mush, it was still in perfect condition. "It is really hard," Xiao Chen said indifferently with a frown. He stabbed the lunar shadow saber into the ground and took out the Soul Slayer bow and essence light arrow. There was a graceful flash and a surging aura. It was like a meteor tearing through the night sky. The arrow was as fast as lightning. It struck the ice ape that was struggling to climb out with a honked sound. The essence light arrow pierced through the ice ape's neck and pinned it to the ground. With this, the ice ape could not be any more dead. The ice ape's intelligence was very high. When the other two young ice apes saw the situation, they quickly turned and fled. Xiao Chen glanced at them indifferently and knocked 2 essence light arrows on his bow. The arrows moved like a beam of light, tearing through the air and arriving in an instant. They pierced through the chests of the 2 ice apes and left a large hole. Then, they fell to the ground with a loud bang. "Thank you, benefactor, for saving our lives." The stout youth on the ground, who was covered in wounds, got up and thanked Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen stood beside him. Xiao Chen was 1.8 meters tall, but he was actually shorter than him by a head. Looking at his face, he looked very honest. He was also not much older than Xiao Chen. However, Xiao Chen had some misgivings about the two of them entering Evil Wind Valley. 2 cultivators who had not even condensed a martial spirit, what were they doing here? Xiao Chen waved his hand and the small silver boat flew over and slowly landed on the ground. The little girl on the boat quickly jumped off. Xiao Chen looked at the bloody wounds on the youth's body. Although they were not fatal, if they were not treated, he would have to recuperate for a long time. Xiao Chen took out 2 blood-replenishing pills and handed them to him. He said, "One for external application and one for internal consumption. It can treat your injuries." The youth shook his head and said, "There is no need. This medicinal pill should be very expensive. My minor injuries are not a problem." However, the little girl behind him received it. She had a gentle and weak look on her face as she said softly, "Benefactor, don't listen to Xiao Yang's nonsense. With such severe external injuries, if they are not treated, they will have to recuperate for a long time before they can fully recover." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and entered the silver warship. He did not say anything and left directly. They had met by chance and it was just a small matter. There was no need to be overly stubborn about it. The youth called Xiao Yang wanted to chase after Xiao Chen. However, he was stopped by the girl behind him. "Don't chase. When Xiao Chen returns, it will be troublesome if he cannot find us." The youth was helpless. He could only watch as Xiao Chen left. The girl crushed the blood-replenishing pill and slowly applied it to the wounds of the stout youth. Not long after Xiao Chen left, a youth in blue quickly arrived before them. When he saw Xiao Yang's injuries, he quickly asked what was going on. After he understood, he immediately chased after Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen felt a figure rushing towards him quickly. The aura of the figure was very dense, he was at least a superior-grade martial grandmaster. Xiao Chen raised his guard and stopped. He slowly turned around. When the youth in blue saw Xiao Chen stop, he quickly went forward and said, "I am Lu Suifeng. I have not asked for your great name yet. You saved my 2 friends. I will definitely repay this favor in the future." This youth had regular features and an imposing appearance. He had a righteous expression on his face. His sincere words dispelled Xiao Chen's guard. He smiled faintly and said, "Yi Chen, it was just a small matter. There is no need to pay so much attention to it. While Xiao Chen was sizing up Lu Suifeng was also carefully observing Xiao Chen. After a while, Lu Suifeng was astonished. He was merely an inferior grade martial master, yet he was able to chase away 3 infant ice apes so easily. This person was definitely not simple. Brother Yi, are you from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's outer sect? I don't think I have heard of this name before, Lu Suifeng asked. Xiao Chen glanced at Lu Suifeng's waist. He saw the silver identity token and understood. This person was an inner disciple of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. No wonder he asked if he was from the outer sect. No, I just came to Saber City not long ago. Xiao Chen felt there was no need to hide anything, so he answered honestly. After that, the two of them chatted for a while. Xiao Chen finally understood why those 2 ordinary people wanted to enter Evil Wind Valley. The ice crystal flower bloomed once every 3 months. If it did not bloom, the 3 of them would come and pick the petals. All along, after Lu Suifeng lured away the adult ice apes, he would leave the 2 of them behind to pick the petals. In the past, there were only 2 infant ice apes. Xiao Yang was able to last until Lu Suifeng returned. However, he did not know why there were 3 this time. Xiao Chen obtained an important piece of information. There really was a rank 5 spirit beast here. Furthermore, Lu Suifeng did not injure him, he only lured him away. He could not help but rejoice. Before they parted, Lu Suifeng wanted to give Xiao Chen 3 inferior grade spirit stones. Originally, he thought Xiao Chen would gladly accept it. Who knew, he would reject it. To Xiao Chen, this was just a small matter. He could not accept such a huge favor. Furthermore, he wanted to befriend this person. In the future, if he entered the inner sect, he might have to interact with this person. Seeing that Xiao Chen insisted on not accepting it, Lu Suifeng did not argue. He took his leave and said that if Xiao Chen had any problems in the future, he would do his best to help. After knowing the information about the rank 5 spirit beast, Xiao Chen was not in a rush to leave. After the 3 of them picked all the petals of the ice crystal flower, Xiao Chen revealed himself. Seeing the ice ape nailed to the entrance of the cave, Xiao Chen thought for a while. First, he took out the spirit cores of the 2 ice apes on the ground and burned them to ashes. After doing all this, Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and flew to the entrance of the cave on the mountain wall. He carried out the infant ice ape's corpse and carefully stuck several rank 3 lightning-attributed talismans on the back of the corpse. After that, he jumped into the cave and found a bush. He withdrew his aura and hid. Chapter 146. After a long time, heavy footsteps came from the distance. The cold qi in the air became even more horrifying. It's here. Xiao Chen felt somewhat nervous. He did not even dare to breathe loudly, lowering his own aura to its limits. A 10-meter-tall ice ape appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. It had long white fur covering its body. It looked like a human, walking upright. From a distance, one might mistake it for a white-haired old man. Roar! The adult ice ape quickly saw the young ice ape that had died a miserable death on the mountain wall. It roared angrily and its eyes turned bloodshot. It pushed off the ground and arrived at the cave in the mountain wall in the blink of an eye. What fast speed! Xiao Chen was secretly startled. The speed of this adult ice ape completely surpassed his imagination. Unexpectedly, he only saw a blurry white light. I can't wait any longer. Xiao Chen jumped out of the bush and quickly formed a hand seal. Then he shouted, "Explode!" The instant that Ice Ape saw Xiao Chen appear, it immediately turned its head. Its heart burned with rage, and a baleful aura filled the air. However, just as it was about to make a move, a boundlessly resplendent light suddenly lit up the cave. An earth-shattering explosion resounded. More than 10 rank 3 lightning-attributed talismans exploded together. The might was already comparable to a peak Earth-ranked martial technique. Furthermore, the destructive power was even more horrifying. The Ice Ape's corpse was blasted into smithereens. An intense shockwave instantly tossed the ice ape high into the sky. The tall cliff collapsed with a loud rumble, and the ground trembled continuously. Countless rocks fell from the sky and shot out. Xiao Chen quickly retreated, dodging these extremely powerful rocks. Shwa! A white figure descended from the sky and quickly landed beside Xiao Chen. It opened its palms and a boundless cold qi spread out. Its 5 sharp claws carried a dense cold qi as they swiped at Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen saw the white figure, he was startled. He saw the layers of ice on its body slowly peeling off. More than 10 rank 3 talismans did not cause any substantial damage to it. Clang! Xiao Chen drew his saber and released the energy of the rank 6 demonic core in the lunar shadow saber without holding anything back. Boundless electricity flickered non-stop. Xiao Chen brandished his saber and the electricity crackled in the booth, blocking the sharp claws of the ice ape. Clang clang! The ice ape used its long arms and legs, jumping up and down. Its speed was extremely fast, turning into a blurry white blur as it continuously attacked Xiao Chen. The more Xiao Chen blocked, the more strenuous it became. Gradually, he felt that something was wrong. The surrounding cold air was getting heavier and heavier. Every step he took was incomparably difficult, as if his legs were stiff. Poochie! The ice ape let out a strange cry, and the surrounding cold air suddenly dropped by a lot. Xiao Chen was immediately hit, and both his legs were directly frozen. The ice ape took advantage of this opportunity to grab the lunar shadow saber with its right hand, ignoring the electricity flickering on the lunar shadow saber. Its other sharp palm tried to grab Xiao Chen's head. When that palm with cold qi spread out, it was about the size of a wash basin. In its eyes, Xiao Chen's head was like a baby's. With just a gentle pinch, his brain would burst. Pu ci. Just as that sharp palm was about to grab Xiao Chen's head, a boundless flame gathered in Xiao Chen's right eye and gushed out. The flame immediately followed the ice ape's arm and spread to its entire body. In an instant, the ice ape cried out in pain, and the surrounding cold qi was instantly dispersed. The hot qi in Xiao Chen's body surged, and his body returned to normal. He quickly retreated. Dragon seizing hand. A huge black hand appeared from nowhere and grabbed the fiery ice ape. In the instant he clenched his fist, Xiao Chen met with an extremely strong resistance, causing him to be unable to clench his fist. Xiao Chen immediately let go. He knew that the ice ape's body was incomparably hard, and there was no need to waste time with it. The huge black hand turned into a fist and hammered down with a rumbling sound. The sound did not stop, and the ground trembled. The ice ape was hammered into the ground. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and stood upright. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. The consumption of this inherited martial technique was much greater than a regular martial technique. Although he managed to injure the ice ape by surprise, Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. He took out the Soul Slayer bow and Essence Light Arrow, drew the bowstring, and concentrated. There was a ka-ca sound coming from the ground. It was the sound of ice breaking. Xiao Chen was horrified. Could it be that the purple thunder true fire is unable to break the layer of ice on the ice ape's body? There was a flash of white light, and the ice ape stood up again. It felt the aura of the Soul Slayer bow, and in the instant it stood up, it quickly turned around, creating a strong wind as it moved in an S-shaped trajectory. So, Xiao Chen released his hand, and the first thing he did was to mark the ice ape's chest with his spiritual sense. No matter how fast it was, it would not be able to avoid being hit. The Essence Light Arrow flashed like a meteor, piercing through the strong wind created by the ice ape, and striking its chest. Ka-ca. A layer of ice appeared on the ice ape's chest, blocking the arrow. The Essence Light Arrow shattered the ice, but it could not advance any further. The ice fell with a dang-dang sound. The arrow carried a huge force, knocking the ice ape back by 5 steps. Xiao Chen looked at the ice on the ground, and he made up his mind. I don't believe you can create an unlimited amount of ice. After he made up his mind, he fired the Essence Light Arrows without caring about the exhaustion. For a moment, the air was filled with the buzzing of the arrows. Regardless of whether the ice ape leaped from the sky or charged from the front or the side, there would always be an arrow knocking it back like a sudden clap of thunder. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Chen had shot out more than 100 essence light arrows. Even with Xiao Chen's strong physical body, he still found it hard to draw the Soul Slayer bow, which he could only rely on his physical body. As for the ice ape, it seemed like nothing had happened to it. The ground was filled with ice fragments and essence light arrows, but the ice ape still charged at Xiao Chen with a high morale. Flight on wings, one-line chop. Xiao Chen had already used up all the essence light arrows. He put away the Soul Slayer bow and shouted. The light on his saber was withdrawn, and he sent a simple saber strike at the ice ape. Bang! The human and the beast both retreated a few steps. Xiao Chen was mildly astonished, and then he rejoiced. The force of the ice ape's palm strike was no longer as ferocious as before. Flight on wings, disordered dance of 1,000 years. Xiao Chen took a step forward and leaped into the air. His figure moved rapidly in the air, and in an instant, his speed reached its peak. Countless saber lights flashed. The wind howled as the ice ape's palms struck out continuously. One human and one beast, one in the air and one on the ground, moved very quickly. Metallic sounds rang out continuously. The instant the saber and the palm clashed, they created a huge shockwave. The shockwave was accompanied by the sound of the wind, forming a huge shockwave in the surroundings. It kicked up dust and made it dance around chaotically. By the time Xiao Chen landed, he had already sent out more than 1,000 saber strikes. Ice continued to fall from the ice ape's body. When all the ice fell to the ground, there were bright red wounds on the ice ape's chest, arms, and back. The wounds were not deep, but they tore through the ice ape's flesh and dyed its snow-white fur red. Xiao Chen felt gratified. As long as he was fast enough, there would be places that the ice ape could not take care of. After fighting for so long, the ice that appeared on the ice ape's body was like a cheat. It could block all sorts of attacks. When Xiao Chen saw that it was injured, his fighting spirit soared. Flight on wings, moon bright like fire. Xiao Chen did not give the ice ape a chance to catch its breath. He quickly used an inferior grade spirit stone and replenished his essence in an instant. Then, he did not hesitate to execute flight on wings, the strongest move that he knew. The pitch-black night covered the sky, and a full moon slowly rose. A human figure holding a saber flew over from the horizon. Under the full moon, he arrived gracefully, as though he was a celestial being. Although Xiao Chen could not understand the state of this sword, he had been using the changing character formula to simulate the dragon seizing hand for the past few days. He had already comprehended some things. Today, he finally perfected moon bright like fire. Retreat! Xiao Chen shouted, and the human figure in the sky followed suit. The celestial voice was indistinct and vast. It resonated in the sky and on the ground, reverberating in the surroundings. The saber in Xiao Chen's hand pointed at the ice ape attacking him from the sky. The human figure in the sky did the same action. It was like a boundless energy tore through space and time. The ice ape in the sky paused for a moment. Then, it was blasted away by a strange energy, rolling on the ground. It stabbed its claws into the ground violently, but it still could not stop. Its sharp claws made a zzz sound, creating a few long marks on the ground. It only stopped after a long time. Before it could stand up, a horrifying pressure descended from the sky. This aura was like an immortal descending. Mortals were like ants, trembling in fear. Immortal might was unfathomable, immortal might could not be blocked. The sword of an immortal could break mountains and rivers for 5,000 kilometers. There was an earth-shattering sound. The human figure in the sky hacked at the ice ape. The ice ape crossed its palms and released a boundless cold chi, trying to block this saber strike. However, it was hacked into the ground with a loud boom. It sank for an unknown amount of meters, and a human-shaped hole appeared in the ground. The night disappeared, and the sunlight shone on Evil Wind Valley again. Xiao Chen took deep breaths and slowly walked to the hole. He felt a headache. If the ice ape died like this, how was he going to get its corpse out? Chi! Chi! Suddenly, layers of cold chi appeared on the ground, instantly freezing it and forming a smooth ice surface. Seeing the ice spreading under his feet, Xiaochen frowned and retreated. He thought in astonishment, could it be that this ice ape is not dead yet? Bang! 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 Countless cracks appeared on the ice surface before it exploded. Countless pieces of frozen soil flew in all directions. When they landed, they immediately shattered into a pile of ice shards. A huge pit appeared on the flat ground. The adult ice ape stood in the pit. Its originally snow-white fur was now covered in blood. It was in a sorry state. It roared angrily and pushed off the ground with its 4 limbs. It quickly crawled out. Its bloodshot eyes were filled with murderous intent as it looked at Xiaochen. The baleful aura on Xiaochen's body rushed to the sky. He opened his huge mouth and a boundless cold chi poured into his mouth like a hurricane. A strong wind howled and a cold wind blew. Under the illumination of the sun, snowflakes drifted down. Chapter 147. The cold wind and snowflakes were like knives, cutting into Xiaochen's face. It was incomparably painful. He had to squint his eyes to prevent the snowflakes from entering his eyes. Pu ci. A sharp killing intent locked onto Xiaochen. The ice ape shot out a piercing ice line from its huge mouth. The ice line was extremely condensed, it was as thin as a needle. Xiaochen felt the threat of death. In that instant, he wanted to take out the Eastern Emperor Bell. However, when he thought of his earlier apprehensions, he did not do so in the end. Heavenly Lightning Shield. Electricity flickered around Xiaochen. The lightning evasion wrapped around Xiaochen. However, the needle-sized ice line pierced through the Heavenly Lightning Shield, leaving a tiny hole that the naked eye could not see. The Heavenly Lightning Shield slowly disappeared and blood spurted out from Xiaochen's chest. Xiaochen looked at the wound strangely. That ice line was too small. When it pierced through his body, he did not even feel any pain. The wound on his chest was very small. However, the blood that flowed out was like a faucet, gushing out violently. Xiaochen's complexion was pale. He used the lunar shadow saber to support his body and knelt on one knee. He took out a blood-replenishing pill with his left hand and instantly swallowed it. After that, he took out another blood-replenishing pill and crushed it before applying it on the wound. However, the blood-replenishing pill that had worked every time lost its effect this time. There was a cold chi lingering around the wound on his chest, preventing the flesh from closing up. When the ice ape shot out the ice line, it was like it had used up all its strength. It rested for a long time. Only then did it recover. It landed on all fours and leaped into the air, pouncing towards Xiaochen. Xiaochen revealed a determined expression on his pale face. He tossed out a golden wooden sculpture. The Golden Lion King appeared from nowhere. Its mountain-like body stomped heavily on the ice ape, crushing it to the ground. The Golden Lion King's thick front limbs trampled on the huge ice ape violently, twisting it around. After a long time, the ice ape finally stopped struggling. Xiaochen sent out a strand of his divine sense and felt that the ice ape was indeed dead. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. The wound on Xiaochen's chest was still slowly bleeding. The blood-replenishing pill alleviated the bleeding, and it was not as turbulent as before. Tearing off a piece of cloth from his clothes, Xiaochen wrapped it around the wound and went to the frost ape's side. Seeing the frost ape covered in wounds, Zhao Fu took out a sharp knife and cut open its body from the side. He found that the frost ape's internal organs had been badly damaged, and there were still traces of electricity in them. Looks like the dozen or so grade 3 lightning attribute talismans were the cause of its death, Xiaochen said indifferently. Then, he took out the top-grade ice attribute inner core. At this moment, there was a piercing sound in the air as a dazzling sword chi shot over. Xiaochen unhurriedly placed the spirit core into the universe ring. He smiled faintly to himself. He finally could not resist making a move. Earlier, although he had scanned the area with his spiritual sense many times, he did not find anyone following him. However, Xiao Chen had kept an eye on him. He knew that someone was following him. Thus, even at the most crucial moment of the battle with the ice ape, he did not use some killing moves. If it were not for the situation being dire, the Golden Lion King would not have used them. Dang! The Eastern Emperor bell rang softly and flew out of Xiao Chen's body. It floated above his head, and strands of mysterious yellow qi fell from his head. The sword qi that flew behind him was blocked by the heaven and earth qi, disappearing without a trace. Xiao Chen gently pushed off the ground and leaped onto the Golden Lion King's head. He looked quietly at the person who arrived. An old man slowly walked out with waning steps. This was the martial saint that the Zhang clan head had ordered around. His name was Chang Siyuan, and he was the top guest of Yunyang City's Zhang clan. He was already a consummation medial grade martial saint. After a cultivator became a martial saint, every time they advanced by a grade, their strength would increase exponentially. A medial grade martial saint could fight against 10 inferior grade martial saints. Chang Siyuan looked at the Eastern Emperor bell above Xiao Chen's head. Then he looked at the huge Golden Lion King under his feet. His expression was somewhat cautious. Along the way, the youth in front of him had given him too many surprises. If Chang Siyuan had not cultivated a martial technique to hide his aura, he would have been discovered by this person several times. Chang Siyuan was already very shocked when he saw Xiao Chen take out the Golden Lion King. He did not expect Xiao Chen to take out a strong defensive secret treasure. Is this where your confidence comes from? Chang Siyuan's voice was very soft but very clear. As he stood there quietly, he had an overwhelming aura. This aura spread out involuntarily. Even with the Eastern Emperor bell and the Golden Lion King, Xiao Chen did not dare to be careless. Hu Qi. In terms of aura, Xiao Chen was at an absolute disadvantage. He did not want to waste time with him. With a thought, the Golden Lion King spat out a golden flame at Chang Siyuan. Qi! A sword qi streaked across and the golden flame was sliced in half, flying to the sides. Shua! Chang Siyuan's figure flashed. He was like a ghost, flying to Xiao Chen's side. A sword light flashed, and his sword appeared before Xiao Chen. Dang! Another strand of yellow qi slid down from the Eastern Emperor bell like glass. Before Xiao Chen could react, it automatically blocked this sword strike. Dang! 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 In the blink of an eye, Chang Siyuan sent out several hundred sword strikes. His speed was extremely fast. However, every time he did so, he was blocked by the yellow qi from the Eastern Emperor bell. The Eastern Emperor bell was indeed the strongest defensive secret treasure of the human race. Even though its Tao patterns were completely shattered, it still had such might. Xiao Chen revealed a calm expression as he shouted. Dang! 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 The Eastern Emperor bell gave off a long chime, and a ripple spread out in all directions. Chang Siyuan bore the brunt of it and was immediately knocked back. When the bell chime spread out, Xiao Chen felt dizzy. He could not help but feel astonished. He quickly stopped the bell chime. In the end, he could not use an incomplete secret treasure. Xiao Chen controlled the Golden Lion King and leaped into the air, causing the ground to tremble. Its mountain-like body pressed down on Chang Siyuan. Chang Siyuan's figure spun rapidly, changing his position very quickly. As he dodged the attacks, he sent out strands of resplendent sword qi at Xiao Chen. However, Xiao Chen, who had the Eastern Emperor bell, was in an invincible position. Streams of yellow qi descended from above, blocking all the attacks. Mountain-breaking chop. Suddenly, Chang Siyuan shouted. The light on his sword was withdrawn. An earth-ranked martial technique, a peak strike, struck the yellow qi violently. The might of an earth-ranked martial technique executed by a medial-grade martial saint was much stronger than Xiao Chen's dragon seizing hand. Furthermore, all the attacks were focused on one point. A ripple appeared on the yellow qi, and a huge force was transmitted. Xiao Chen, who was on the back of the Golden Lion King, was forced back a few steps before he could stabilize himself. Xiao Chen was startled. A fiery light flashed in his right eye, and a purple flame spewed out at Chang Siyuan. The flame turned into a whirlpool, spinning continuously. Chang Siyuan spread his arms wide and quickly retreated. In the blink of an eye, he dodged the spinning purple thunder true fire. He slowly landed on the ground and looked at the Eastern Emperor bell above Xiao Chen's head. He was deep in thought, but he could not figure it out. Xiao Chen controlled the Eastern Emperor bell and the Golden Lion King at the same time. The essence in his body was like an open dam, leaking out. He could not help but feel very anxious. Shwa! Just at this moment, for some unknown reason, the Eastern Emperor bell above his head made a dang-dang sound and turned back into a small, exquisite bell. It fell into Xiao Chen's hands. What's going on? Xiao Chen was dumbfounded. It was clearly repaired, it was just that the Dao patterns were not complete. I also placed my imprint on it. Why can't I use it now? A bright light flashed in Chang Siyuan's eyes. His figure moved again, and a sword light soared into the sky, hacking down at Xiao Chen. The situation was critical, there was no time to think. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts, and a clap of thunder resounded in the sky. He executed the rushing thunder saber techniques, drawing the saber. The saber gave off a bright light as it clashed with this sword strike. Bang! Xiao Chen's body was knocked flying, and he landed heavily on the ground. He rolled back continuously, and the wound on his chest reopened again. It was incomparably painful. It looks like there is no more chance. An inferior grade martial master challenging a medial grade martial saint is simply seeking death. Xiao Chen, who was lying on the ground, smiled bitterly to himself. He originally thought that by relying on the Eastern Emperor bell and the Golden Lion King, he might have a chance. Only when he truly fought did he realize how wrong he was. His opponent's speed and strength were much higher than his. The Golden Lion King could not even touch him. Just like that, he was already in an undefeatable position. However, now that I know someone is following me, I have achieved my goal. Xiao Chen thought to himself. This person does not have a Saber City identity token on him. The most important thing is that this person uses a sword. That is to say, this person was not sent by Guyunbin. At the very least, it is not the worst-case scenario. Berserk! Xiao Chen gave an order in his heart. The Golden Lion King on the ground immediately gave off a boundless baleful aura. Its speed increased significantly, and it entangled Chang Siyuan, preventing him from chasing after Xiao Chen. Lightning descend. Xiao Chen used another inferior grade spirit stone. His essence was immediately replenished. Before he left, he summoned out bolts of lightning, continuously annoying Chang Siyuan. To a medial grade martial saint, the might of this lightning descend was negligible. However, when it struck the body, it was hard to avoid pain. At this moment, he was entangled by the Berserk Golden Lion King. Xiao Chen did not have the time to dodge the bolts of lightning. Not long after, he was struck by a few bolts of lightning. His skin was charred black, and all his hair was standing on end. He was in an extremely sorry state. Chang Siyuan was so angry that smoke came out of his 7 orifices. However, he could not do anything to Xiao Chen. At this moment, the speed of this Golden Lion King, which was the size of a small mountain, had increased significantly. It entangled Chang Siyuan, and he had no way to deal with Xiao Chen. It's about time. The Berserk Golden Lion King will not be able to last much longer, Xiao Chen smiled faintly. A silver warship appeared, and he leaped off gently, drifting away. Before he left, he gave the Golden Lion King a deep look. He felt that it was a pity. After the Golden Lion King went berserk, there was no way to use it a second time. It would be very difficult to find good materials for it. Back in Saber City, Xiao Chen returned to his courtyard. He sat down cross-legged and circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. There was a small wound on his chest that could not be healed. There was always a cold chi lingering on the wound. If he could not expel the cold qi, Xiao Chen would die from blood loss sooner or later. Chapter 148. After Xiao Chen advanced to martial Grand Master, the clear spring in his body had turned into a gushing river. The tiny blue dragon had also grown significantly larger and was churning in the river. Xiao Chen could clearly feel that the gushing river had not only much more essence than before, but it was also more ferocious, surging, and purer. The essence in his body circulated for a great cycle. Finally, under Xiao Chen's control, he carefully washed the wound on his chest. A trace of cold qi drifted out from the wound. Xiao Chen's face lit up with joy. This cold qi could be expelled. Otherwise, Xiao Chen would not be able to do anything about it. He might even bleed to death. However, what Xiao Chen did not expect was that the cold qi contained in this tiny wound was much more than he had imagined. Xiao Chen did not eat or drink. He circulated his essence for 2 days and 2 nights before the cold qi was completely expelled. Xiao Chen got up and felt like his entire body was about to collapse. He walked to the wooden bed step by step and collapsed on his back, falling unconscious. Xiao Chen slept for 20 hours. When he woke up, he felt much more refreshed. Xiao Chen's stomach was rumbling from hunger. After he washed up, he quickly found a restaurant to satisfy his craving for good food. Inside the restaurant, Xiao Chen started to think about the details of this mission. Firstly, this mission did not make sense. Furthermore, he was sure that the mysterious martial saint was not one of Gu Binyun's men. When Xiao Chen thought of the intense competition for spots in the inner sect, he thought of a possibility. Could it be that because the spots were limited, Gu Binyun wanted Xiao Chen to back off? However, some people could not hold back and wanted to deal with Xiao Chen once and for all. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Xiao Chen smacked the table heavily and smiled coldly in his heart. I want to see who is playing tricks behind my back. After settling the bill, Xiao Chen walked quickly to the city lord's residence. The cultivator guarding the door recognized Xiao Chen's appearance. After he reported his arrival, he brought Xiao Chen in. The city lord was still receiving guests and could not see him for the time being. He could only ask him to wait in the side hall. Xiao Chen smiled indifferently and did not say anything. After that person left, he immediately took out a small bird sculpture from the universe ring. After executing the life bestowal spell, the little bird flapped its wings and flew out the door. Xiao Chen attached his spiritual sense to it. Controlling the bird to fly around the city lord's mansion, he finally found Gu Bingyun in the main hall. In the great hall, Gu Bingyun was speaking with the Yunyang city's Zhang clan head. The Zhang clan head smiled faintly. City Lord Gu, this immortal cloud life extending pill of mine is not an ordinary immortal cloud life extending pill. It contains the extremely rare yellow springs grass. It can extend one's lifespan by 40 years. My cultivation has long been stuck at the peak of the martial highness realm. However, City Lord Gu, you are at the peak of the martial king realm. With another 40 years to live, your chances of becoming a martial emperor will increase by leaps and bounds. Once you become a martial emperor, your lifespan will increase by another 100 years. Zhang clan. Xiao Chen frowned. Could it be that Yunyang City's Zhang clan? With a thought, Zhang Xian carefully controlled the bird to fly a little further forward. When Gu Bingyun heard this, he smiled faintly and said, Old Zhang, don't worry. He will know when to retreat. With his strength, he will not be able to complete the mission I gave him. The Zhang clan head muttered to himself for a while before saying, I received news that that person has already completed the mission City Lord gave him. Gu Yunbin's expression changed. He placed the teacup in his hand heavily on the table and said sullenly, Old Zhang, you have to be clear about this. This is someone that Miss Feng recommended. Do you dare to mess around with him? Old Zhang smiled gently, City Lord, don't worry. Naturally, I would not dare to mess around with someone that Miss Feng recommended. Many of my Yunyang City's businesses have dealings with the Feng clan. How could I dare to ruin my own livelihood? Gu Yunbin's expression relaxed and he slowly said, It's good that you know. However, this makes things difficult for me. The inner sect has always been very strict. This is because the distribution of resources is very standard. If it were not for Ling Tianyue's mistake, there would not be a spot for Tianyue Peak. Gu Yunbin's eyes lit up as he looked at the peak-grade Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill on the table. He was already 120 years old and did not have much lifespan left. This Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill held a fatal attraction for him. He had been stuck at peak Martial King for many years. If he could not advance to Martial Monarch, he would turn into a pile of dust and stop advancing on the path of cultivation. To the people of the world, a Martial King was an existence that they could only look up to. If a regular person could become a martial saint in their lifetime, they would already be praying to Buddha and the gods. However, Gu Yunbin knew that this was nothing. The higher one stood, the more insignificant one would feel. The more one was reluctant to part with this world, the more stubborn one was on the path of cultivation. They were not willing to turn into a pile of dust and be forgotten by the world after 100 years. Gu Yunbin's face sank. After thinking for a long time, he sighed and finally said, I can only let this person enter Qingyun Peak. I will leave the spot for Tianyue Peak for your grandson. When the Zhang clan head heard this, he revealed an expression of joy. He smiled and said, in that case, I will have to trouble City Lord. I will take my leave first and wait for your news. After the Zhang clan had left, Gu Yunbin picked up the jade bottle containing the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill. He rubbed it repeatedly with a smile on his face. He stood up and left the hall. Xiao Chen quickly controlled the small bird to follow behind him silently. After a while, Xiao Chen arrived at his own bedroom. He opened the jade bottle and examined it carefully. City Lord, the person that Miss Feng introduced has been waiting in the side hall for a long time, a cultivator's voice came from outside the door. Xiao Chen cursed in his heart, so I have been waiting here for so long. To think that I only report this now. When he thought about how long it took the previous time, he could not help but feel even angrier. Gu Yunbin frowned slightly, I just started appraising it. To think that he picked this time to come. I can only appraise it later. He placed the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill on the table and opened the door, let's go. After Gu Yunbin left, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense detected the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill in the room. Perhaps it was because Gu Bingyun was in a hurry to leave, he did not bring it with him. Should I just take it away? Damn it, this fellow nearly caused me to die. Why should I be polite to him? Xiao Chen made up his mind. He did not hesitate and controlled the small bird to fly into the room through the ventilation hole. After the small bird entered, it immediately grabbed the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill on the table and flew out. Xiao Chen was somewhat nervous. He was afraid that someone would see him, so he controlled the small bird to fly high. After a while, the small bird flew safely into Xiao Chen's hands. Xiao Chen quickly withdrew his spell and placed the wooden bird and the Immortal Cloud Life Extending Pill into his universe ring. Just as he finished doing all this, the door to the side hall opened. Gu Yunbin walked in with a smile on his face. He said, Nephew Yi Chen, have you completed your mission? Xiao Chen was mildly astonished, but his expression did not change. He stood up and bowed, greetings, Senior City Lord. This junior was fortunate enough to not fail the mission and managed to kill a rank 5 ice ape. After Xiao Chen spoke, he took out the corpse of the ice ape. Gu Binyun's expression changed slightly. Although he had heard this news from the Zhang clan head, he still could not believe it when he saw it for himself. A superior grade martial master actually killed a rank 5 spirit beast. This was unbelievable. He looked at Xiao Chen again and his eyes lit up. Xiao Chen had actually advanced to inferior grade martial grandmaster. My eyes were actually blind, only now did I discover that nephew has advanced to martial grandmaster. Congratulations. Gu Yunbin looked at Xiao Chen and smiled faintly. However, he felt it was a pity in his heart. This person might really be a talent. Xiao Chen's etiquette was not bad. He said humbly, I still have to thank Senior City Lord. If it were not for the battle with this rank 5 spirit beast, I would not have been able to advance to Martial Grand Master so smoothly. Gu Yunbin's expression froze. Even for someone as smart as him, when he saw Xiao Chen's serious expression, he could not tell if Xiao Chen was mocking him or if he was sincerely thanking him. Xiao Chen smiled embarrassedly, "There is no need to thank me. Being able to advance is your own good fortune. You can continue keeping the corpse of this spirit beast. Later, I will send someone to bring you to Lingyun Mountain Range." Xiao Chen's emotions were somewhat complicated. He did not inspect the spirit beast's corpse carefully. He called someone over and said, "Bring this little brother to Lingyun Mountain Range and send him to Qingyun Peak. Bring my identity token there." When this person heard the words Qingyun Peak, his expression was clearly stunned. His eyes were filled with astonishment. After he received Gu Yunbin's pure gold identity token, he reacted and said, "All right, Brother Yi, please follow me." This was the second time Xiao Chen had heard of Qingyun Peak. Previously, he had guessed it in his heart. Now that he saw this person's expression, he was sure that this Qingyun Peak was not a good place to go. However, it was not convenient for Xiao Chen to question him. He followed that person and started chatting along the way. Xiao Chen knew that this person's surname was Tang and his given name was Ding Tian. He was the deputy chief steward of the city lord's residence. He had a lot of authority in Saber City. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was below only one person and above tens of thousands. However, he was very humble. Along the way, he explained to Xiao Chen the things to take note of in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's inner sect was split into 7 branches. There were 7 main peaks in the Lingyun mountain range. These 7 branches were stationed on top of them. Every main peak had different requirements for their disciples. The saber techniques and movement techniques they learned were also different. Aside from the pavilion master, who had the most authority in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the peak masters of the various main peaks were next. Aside from them, there was also the Law Enforcement Hall, the Elders' Assembly, and various other organizations. Tang Ding Tian made it clear that there were many forbidden areas in the inner sect. Xiao Chen should never enter them. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. No matter how powerful one's background was, the Law Enforcement Hall would not show any mercy. Xiao Chen saw that the two of them were somewhat familiar with each other. So, he asked the question in his heart, "Chief Manager Tang, can you tell me more about Qingyun Peak?" This was because Xiao Chen discovered that Tang Ding Tian spoke a lot. However, he intentionally or unintentionally avoided the topic of where Xiao Chen was going next, Qingyun Peak. Tang Ding Tian suddenly stopped speaking. After a while, he smiled awkwardly and said, "The city lord probably did not tell you. It is not convenient for me to tell you directly. Let's put it this way. Qingyun Peak is the weakest of the 7 main peaks. However, the competition there is less." "The weakest?" Xiao Chen smiled faintly in his heart. "That is nothing much. Looking at the situation of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the Peak Master should be at least a martial king. He should be more than capable of giving pointers to Xiao Chen." Chapter 149. What about Tianyue Peak? How strong is it? Xiao Chen asked out of curiosity. Tang Ding Tian answered without hesitation, "Among the 7 peaks, Tianyue Peak should be the strongest. Furthermore, the competition is also the most intense." As expected, Xiao Chen smiled to himself. Otherwise, it would not be worth an immortal cloud life-extending pill. However, now that this life-extending pill is in my hands, I wonder what expression Gu Yunbin will have. In the backyard of the city lord's residence, Tang Ding Tian slowly stopped. He took out Gu Yunbin's identity token and shone it at the empty ground. After a while, under Xiao Chen's surprised gaze, a sparkling and translucent jade ship appeared on the ground. Layers of mist spread out, and spiritual energy assaulted the nose. Ceremonial music rang out, and the sound of celestial music lingered in the ears. This was actually an ancient secret treasure that had its hull and dais preserved in perfect condition. Although it was not an offensive secret treasure, it was still very shocking. The ancient secret treasure was over 20,000 years ago. For it to be preserved in such perfect condition, it was not an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle. When Xiao Chen thought about his Eastern Emperor bell, he felt very depressed. Even now, he still did not know what went wrong with it. Tang Dingtian was very satisfied with Xiao Chen's surprised expression. He said, "Let's go." The two of them boarded the jade ship. Tang Dingtian casually threw the golden identity token in his hand. The identity token floated above the jade ship. After that, it stopped quietly and started spinning in the air. A golden aura was emitted from it. The jade ship was not Gu Yunbin's personal possession. Hence, it was not as convenient to control as Xiao Chen's silver warship. After a while, the formation on the jade ship activated. The body of the ship flashed with a multicolored light. The melodious sounds of various musical instruments rang out once again. The jade ship soared into the sky with a "so" sound. Tang Dingtian brought Xiao Chen into the interior of the ship. The rooms inside were all made of white jade. The tables and stools were all made of white jade. There were already prepared dishes and wine inside. Xiao Chen picked up the jade wine cup and thought of walking into the Baron's silver warship. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This difference was not ordinary. The two of them drank and chatted. After flying for a long time, Xiao Chen suddenly felt as though he had passed through a restriction. A massive pressure came over and he quickly circulated his energy to resist it. Seeing this, Tang Dingtian quickly stopped him and said, "Relax, don't resist. This is only the first restriction. There are still 19 more, and each one is stronger than the last. If you resist, you will be shocked to death." Xiao Chen was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat and quickly stopped resisting. After a while, he finally felt a little better. After passing through a dozen more restrictions, Tang Dingtian stood up and said, "Let's go. We're here." The two of them walked out of the cabin and stood on the bow of the ship, surrounded by fluttering white clouds. Xiao Chen looked down, and a magnificent scene appeared before his eyes, causing him to exclaim in admiration. The surroundings were filled with towering mountain ranges. Occasionally, birds would fly by in the clouds. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, he noticed that many of the birds were carrying people. Those who recognized Tang Dingtian would smile and greet him when they passed by. When Xiao Chen looked around, there were mountains and forests on the majestic peaks of the clouds. The mountains were filled with lush greenery, and there were exquisite ancient buildings. There were also lone peaks that rose from the ground and rushed into the sky. It was unknown how tall they were. It was a very magnificent sight. There was a smooth platform directly below the jade warship. It was a huge mountain that looked like it had been shaved off by someone. There were countless palaces on the platform. The size of this place was comparable to a small city. Tang Dingtian smiled faintly and said, "This is the heaven viewing platform of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's main hall is here as well. It can be considered the core of the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. I will go and register your information now." The jade warship slowly descended, bringing the two of them towards the west side of the heaven viewing platform. The scene on the platform was very lively. When they got closer, Xiao Chen could clearly feel how huge the heaven viewing platform was. The jade warship stopped in front of a pavilion. Xiao Chen looked forward and saw an ancient wooden sign above the pavilion. There were 3 bold words on it: "Returning Cloud Hall." The two of them jumped off the jade warship. After Tang Dingtian showed Xiao Chen Gu Yunbin's golden identity token, he led Xiao Chen in without any obstructions. The people inside all recognized Tang Dingtian. Tang Dingtian had a gentle smile on his face as he greeted everyone. The pavilion was very spacious. The crowd was sparse, it was very cold and cheerless. Xiao Chen followed behind Tang Dingtian. He curiously looked at the layout of the returning cloud hall. There were many martial scriptures carved on the surrounding wooden walls. This was an eye-opener for Xiao Chen. There were many superior-grade profound ranked martial techniques carved on the wooden walls. There were even a few Earth-ranked martial techniques. "Brother Tang, are you here to spar with me again? You lost the last time and have yet to pay for the wine you owe me," a carefree voice came from the front. A man dressed in green walked over slowly. Tang Dingtian smiled embarrassedly. "Brother Lu Chen's memory is really good. I am here on official business. City Lord Go is here to recommend someone." After Tang Dingtian spoke, he handed Gu Yunbin's golden identity token to Lu Chen. In Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the identity token not only represented a person's identity but also their status. The ordinary people of Saber City had a wooden identity token. The outer disciples had an iron identity token, the inner disciples had a silver identity token, and the inner core disciples had a platinum identity token. As for the golden identity token, only people of the peak master level would have one. The effect of the identity token was very big. Many times, it would even recognize the identity token and not the person. When Gu Yunbin handed his identity token to Tang Dingtian, it was equivalent to him coming personally. Tang Dingtian's words could be considered his words. "Oh." Lu Chen received the golden identity token and looked at it carefully. After a while, he looked at Xiao Chen, who was behind Tang Dingtian, and said, "Is this the little brother I am recommending?" Tang Dingtian nodded and introduced, "This is Lu Chen, the hall master of this place. He is also the youngest hall master in the history of the returning Cloud Hall. This is Yi Chen, a cultivator recommended by the Feng clan." Xiao Chen stepped forward and looked at Lu Chen. He was somewhat astonished. Lu Chen's handsome appearance did not look more than 30 years old. However, the feeling he gave Xiao Chen was very terrifying. His strength was unfathomable. "Yi Chen greets Hall Master." Lu Chen smiled and nodded gently. He asked, "City Lord is recommending him to Tianhua Peak, right? It seems like only Tianhua Peak has a vacancy recently. Come over here and register with me." Tang Dingtian's expression froze for a while. He said somewhat embarrassedly, "This City Lord Go is recommending Qingyun Peak, not Tianhua Peak." When Lu Chen heard this, the smile on his face froze. However, he immediately reacted and said, "Qingyun Peak? That's not bad. Senior Sister Ryue came to me a few days ago to rush me." Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he followed behind the two of them. They arrived at a room filled with rows of bookshelves. These bookshelves were much taller than ordinary bookshelves, they were at least 4 meters tall. There were all sorts of numbers carved on the bookshelves. Lu Chen walked inside and casually opened a book. A black book slowly floated down. Tang Dingtian handed over Xiao Chen's information. Lu Chen took a look and smiled. "To be able to become an inferior grade martial grand master at the age of 16, your talent is pretty good. I believe Senior Sister Yueru will be satisfied this time." After they finished registering, Lu Chen led the two of them to the top floor of the returning Cloud Hall. He said to Xiao Chen, "The creation of the identity token will take another 2 days. I will send someone to deliver it to Qingyun Peak." On the top floor, Lu Chen sent out a messenger pigeon. Tang Dingtian explained to the side that this was to inform the Peak Master of Qingyun Peak to send someone to receive Xiao Chen. The three of them were very patient, they waited quietly. After a while, a green bird flew over from the horizon. On it was a graceful girl. As Xiao Chen stood below, he could only see a blurry figure. However, he could feel the beauty of the girl. Lu Chen looked at the sky and smiled faintly, "They're here." There was a melodious bird cry and the green bird slowly stopped at the top of the building. A girl wearing green, tight-fitting robes nimbly jumped down from the green bird. The tight-fitting cultivator's robes made the girl's fiery figure and exquisite figure very obvious. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, and her face was as warm as jade. She had the charm of a mature girl, without any hint of the inexperience of a young girl. When Xiao Chen saw the girl walking over leisurely, he praised her in his heart. Based on her figure and face, she would definitely be a top-tier older sister in the hearts of the otakus in his previous life. What astonished Xiao Chen was the identity token on the girl's waist. It was an eye-catching golden identity token. However, based on her age, she was definitely not more than 20 years old. Although she was a medial-grade martial saint, she was still far from being a peak master. However, no one dared to wear an identity token in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Could this girl really be the peak master of Qingyun Peak? Just as Xiao Chen was feeling suspicious, the girl had already walked over quickly. After she glanced at Xiao Chen, she went to Lu Chen's side and took a look at Xiao Chen's information. Yi Chen, 16 years old, inferior grade martial grandmaster. The girl's melodious voice read out slowly. After that, she said to Lu Chen, "Junior brother Lu Chen, are you trying to deceive me? Every time I come to you to ask for someone, you try to fool me." Lu Chen smiled. "No, senior sister Ryue definitely did not do that this time. This time, he is someone recommended by the Feng clan. City Lord Gu arranged for him to be in Qingyun Peak. Recommended by Feng Feishue." Lu Ryue said softly. A light flashed in her clear eyes as she carefully sized up Xiao Chen. Just at this moment, Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He felt a sharp killing chi heading towards him. This killing chi was very straightforward and direct as it rushed towards him. Shwa! There was a flash of saber light. Under Xiao Chen's astonished gaze, Lu Ryue's 2-finger-wide, 1-meter-long saber was suddenly unsheathed. It gave off a cold light as it quickly chopped towards him. Lu Ryue's speed was very fast. Xiao Chen only saw a flash of a cold light and the saber was already in front of him. Without any time to think, Xiao Chen did an iron plank bridge stance. He bent his legs and leaned back. The saber moved in front of Xiao Chen's face, and a few strands of his hair were easily cut off. Then, they slowly fell to the ground. Xiao Chen pushed his feet off the ground and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. His body flew backwards. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he quickly pulled out the lunar shadow saber. When Lu Ryue saw Xiao Chen's quick reaction, a trace of astonishment flashed in the depths of her eyes. She shouted softly and the small saber in her hand gave off a buzzing sound. The sound was extremely joyful, reverberating in the air. Chapter 150. On the roof, everyone's weapons could not help but shake. Xiao Chen grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly, trying to struggle free. Xiao Chen thought to himself in astonishment, listening to the sword and communicating with it, it's listening to the sword and communicating with it again. This was the second person that Xiao Chen met who grasped this state since he came to Shihe province. However, it was clear that Lu Ryue's listening to the sword and communicating with it was much stronger than Leng Liusu's. Back when he fought with Leng Liusu, his weapon did not have such a reaction. While Xiao Chen was astonished, Lu Ryue's figure flashed and arrived beside Xiao Chen. The saber in her hand chopped mercilessly at Xiao Chen. Dang! 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 Xiao Chen brandished his saber to block. When the weapons clashed, it gave off a metallic sound. Lu Ryue's speed became faster and faster. Soon, Xiao Chen could only see a blurry saber image. He could only rely on his intuition and continuously execute drawing the saber. What a fast saber! Xiao Chen was astonished. This should be the result of Lu Ryue suppressing her strength. The force of the saber was controlled to a level that Xiao Chen could endure. Xiao Chen had never seen such a fast saber before. The other party was not using any exquisite saber techniques. It was just a simple sweep, hack, push, slice, skim, chop, chop, and pierce. These were the 8 movements of the basic saber techniques. However, they caused Xiao Chen to be unable to retaliate. He could only continuously execute drawing the saber to block. However, to continuously execute drawing the saber required constant concentration. Furthermore, every time he executed drawing the saber, it would be blocked. Before the momentum of the rushing thunder saber could rise, it would be extinguished. This was a great taboo in the rushing thunder saber technique. Like this, Xiao Chen's stamina was depleting quickly. On the other hand, Lu Ryue did not seem to know fatigue. She did not stop her saber for even a moment. Huang! After a while, Lu Ryue sheathed her saber. Her charming face revealed a satisfied smile. She said, "Your reaction is not bad. However, your fundamentals are not solid enough. I can tell that you have not practiced for long enough." After she spoke, she walked over to Xiao Chen. Her lily-white hands pinched Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chen was already very tired. When he saw this, he was startled. He did not know where he got the strength to take a big step back. He was so fast that he did not seem exhausted at all. Lu Chen and Tang Dingtian, who were next to him, could not help but laugh out loud when they saw that. They said immediately, "Little brother Yi Chen, don't worry. I'm just testing your bone age." Testing one's bone age was something that many sects would do. It was mainly to prevent people from falsely reporting their age and practicing fraud. Xiao Xiao from Xiao 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 Chen. To Chen. To say. From Xiao Xiao Chen. Chen. Chen to Chen. Chen started to test his age from to his Chen's to Xiao Xiao. They started to test Xiao Chen's bone age. This time, Xiao Chen did not dare to move. He just stood where he was. Lu Ryue started to rub her hands rhythmically. The bones in Xiao Chen's upper body were so close. The faint fragrance from the girl entered Xiao Chen's nose. It caused Xiao Chen's heart to be in a mess. He did not even dare to breathe loudly. After a while, Lu Ryue withdrew her hands. She revealed a faint smile and said, "You are indeed 16 years old. A 16-year-old inferior grade martial grandmaster. You are slightly weaker than me back then, but still passable. You are Yi Chen, right? Call me master." Xiao Chen sweated profusely. He felt a headache coming. Since he came to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, he must have thought of taking a master. However, even if Xiao Chen was beaten to death, he would never have imagined that his master would be such a girl who did not look much older than him. Seeing Xiao Chen remain silent, Lu Ryue raised her eyebrows. She said fiercely, "Are you not willing? Since you are not willing, then don't choose my Qingyun Peak. If I make a wasted trip, the consequences will be severe. Even Feng Feishue will not be able to protect you." Lu Ryue's right hand grasped her saber hilt. Her face revealed a murderous intent. She was prepared to draw her saber at any moment. Xiao Chen was speechless. This girl is too intrepid. Lu Chen had a gentle smile on his handsome face. He slowly walked over and said, "Yi Chen, you don't have to worry. If you enter Qingyun Peak, your stipend will not be lower than that of the other peaks. Furthermore, with senior sister Yulan's strength, it should not be a problem for her to teach you. In the future, if you become a core disciple, you can enter the Divine Saber camp as well. The most important thing is that senior sister Yulan is now the acting peak master. If you become her disciple, your seniority will be the same as Brother Tang." Xiao Chen smiled bitterly in his heart. There were quite a lot of benefits. However, no matter how he thought about it, he felt that something was wrong. This Lu Ryue was only a few years older than him. It was hard for him to get over this hurdle in his heart. He could not help but lower his head. He glanced at the lunar shadow saber in his hand from the corner of his eye. His heart could not help but tighten. It had been almost half a year since he left Mo City. Didn't he come out to undo the seal on Ao Jiao in advance? This was a great opportunity. Coincidentally, Lu Ryue had grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it. Taking her as his master was clearly the best choice. After thinking this through, Xiao Chen knelt on one knee and said decisively, "Disciple Yi Chen, today, I sincerely come to take Qingyun Peak's peak master, Lu Ryue, as my master. I hope master will grant me this wish." Actually, Xiao Chen already had a plan in his heart. After all, he was currently using an alias. Furthermore, he had changed his appearance. He could just fall out with her at any time. The murderous intent on Lu Ryue's face slowly disappeared. Her charming face revealed a gentle smile. She said seriously, "Qingyun Peak's Regeneration's peak master, Lu Ryue, will accept Yi Chen as my disciple today. I will do my best to teach him seriously. After Lu Riyue spoke, she helped Xiao Chen up. She said to Lu Chen and Tang Dingtian, the two of you have to be my Qingyun Peak's witnesses. Lu Chen smiled faintly, don't worry, I will immediately change Yi Chen's identity. I will also make a new identity token. Tang Dingtian took out a short saber from the universe ring and handed it to Xiao Chen. Congratulations Brother Yi on becoming a disciple of Qingyun Peak. Take this short saber as my gift to you for taking you in as my disciple. Xiao Chen received the short saber and slowly pulled it out. A cold light flickered on the saber. It was actually an earth-ranked spirit weapon. This Tang Dingtian was really willing to part with it. Lu Riyue smiled at Lu Chen, Junior Brother Lu, shouldn't you do something as well? Chief Steward Tang gave you an earth-ranked spirit weapon. Lu Chen took out a book and smiled faintly, I can see that the aura in your body is unstable and abnormally chaotic. You must have learned too many things and are unable to unify them. When you have time, read this flowing cloud scripture. It will be beneficial to you. Xiao Chen quickly gave his thanks and received it. This flowing cloud scripture was really good stuff. He had heard of it before. It was derived from the ancient martial scriptures and Taoist scriptures. It was very famous. Xiao Chen did not expect that he would be able to obtain a handwritten copy of the flowing cloud scripture from Lu Chen after taking Lu Yueru as his master. This was a pleasant surprise. Lu Yueru brought Xiao Chen onto the green bird and bid farewell to the two of them. After that, the green bird flapped its wings and created a huge shockwave, bringing the two of them into the air. Tang Dingtian watched the two of them leave and said, I say, Brother Lu, you are really generous. Normally, when I ask you to borrow the flowing cloud scripture, I have to spend a lot of effort. Today, you are very straightforward, directly giving it away. Lu Chen turned around and smiled at him, you are not much better off than me. That dagger is called Magatama. It came from the hands of a Haotian. It is not an ordinary earth-ranked spirit weapon. Tang Dingtian sighed, I feel pity for this youth's talent. He had Miss Feng's recommendation letter and even hunted down a rank 5 spirit beast before he could obtain the qualifications to enter the inner sect. Guyun Bin allowed him to enter Qingyun Peak. I really don't know what he was thinking. It is very strange. Lu Chen revealed an astonished expression, he hunted down a rank 5 spirit beast by himself? He is only an inferior grade martial master, how is this possible? Tang Dingtian withdrew his gaze and said, I'm afraid you will be even more astonished. When he hunted down the rank 5 spirit beast, he was only a peak superior grade martial master. He only advanced after that. Lu Chen's expression immediately changed. However, after a while, he laughed carefreely. Tang Dingtian did not understand. Lu Chen replied, let's go and have a drink later. My treat today. High up in the sky, the green bird soared in the sky. Xiao Chen sat behind Lu Riyue and asked, Master, can I ask you a question? Lu Riyue smiled gently, when there is no one around, just call me elder sister Riyue like Feng Feishue does. I am not that much older than you, so I cannot bully you. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He finally understood why Lu Riyue dared to accept him as her disciple the first time they met. A large part of the reason was probably because he was acquainted with Feng Feishue. I would like to ask, how many inner disciples does our Qingyun Peak have? How many elders are there? And how many disciples does elder sister Riyue have? Xiao Chen had been curious about this question for a long time. Now that he had an opportunity, he could not help but ask in one breath. Lu Riyue turned her head and asked in a strange tone, don't you know? Don't tell me that you came to Qingyun Peak without knowing anything. Suddenly, Xiao Chen had a bad feeling in his heart. He smiled bitterly, I really did not know anything before I entered Qingyun Peak. Lu Riyue felt a headache coming on. She said in a very grave tone, before you came, the answers were all zeros. After you came, they were all ones. Xiao Chen felt dizzy. Although he already knew that Qingyun Peak was the weakest, he did not expect it to be so weak that there was not a single person there. Lu Ruiyue smiled, "This is also the reason why I accepted you as my disciple. In this Qingyun Peak, there is no one to teach you. However, you don't have to think so much. There are benefits to having fewer people. With this peak master giving you special treatment, not many people in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion have such treatment. A peak master who is not even a martial king." It had to be known that the strength of the outer sect's sect master, Guyun Bin, was already a peak martial king. How could the strength of the inner sect's peak master be low? However, Xiaochen did not mind in the end. After all, he was here to learn listening to the sword and communicating with it. Listening to the sword and communicating with it was not related to strength. It did not mean that one would be able to grasp it just because they were strong. In the end, it was still about talent and comprehension. To Xiaochen, having a master who knew listening to the sword and communicating with it was enough to make up for all of Lu Ruiyue's disadvantages. After a while, a sharp lonely peak appeared in front of Xiaochen. It pierced the sky. There were clouds surrounding the peak, it was boundlessly hazy, making it hard to see clearly. Chapter 151. The forest on the peak was lush and verdant. Occasionally, there would be groups of buildings hidden in the greenery. The green bird carried the two of them and landed halfway up the mountain. Lu Ruiyue was the first to jump down. Then, she said to Xiaochen, "This is Qingyun Peak. In the future, you will be one of my Qingyun Peak's people. Later, I will find someone to bring you around." Xiaochen nodded his head and started to size up his surroundings carefully. There were tall trees all around him. There was a small platform in front of him, and there was a stretch of buildings. A young man quickly floated over from the front. His figure was strangely fast and soon, he arrived before the two of them. "Lu Suifeng. Why are you here?" Xiaochen exclaimed in astonishment when he saw this person's face. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiaochen, he was astonished as well. "Yi Chen, why are you here?" When Lu Ruiyue saw that the two of them knew each other, she was stunned for a moment. Then, she smiled and said, "It's great that you know each other. Suifeng, bring Yi Chen around Qingyun Peak. At the same time, help him find a place to stay. This is the disciple that I just accepted." Lu Suifeng had an expression of disbelief in his eyes. "That can't be. Sis, you can actually accept a disciple? This is too illogical. Are you asking for a beating? Hurry up and do something for me." Lu Ruiyue frowned and scolded jokingly. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "Never mind, Brother Yi. Let me bring you around first. There are very few people on this Qingyun Peak. Otherwise, if you get lost, you might not even be able to find your way back." Lu Suifeng did not expect Lu Ruiyue and Lu Suifeng to be siblings. It was such a coincidence. Lu Suifeng brought Xiaochen and started to wander around. The two of them chatted along the way. Lu Suifeng did not hide anything about Qingyun Peak and told Xiaochen everything honestly. 20 years ago, the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion suffered a calamity. Even the pavilion master at that time died in that calamity. Among the 7 peaks, Qingyun Peak suffered the greatest loss. Almost all the elders of the previous generation of Qingyun Peak died. Furthermore, the peak master, who was Lu Suifeng's father, lost his martial spirit in the calamity and became a cripple. Just like that, the entire Qingyun sect had completely declined. Without the older generation to hold down the fort, the younger disciples had almost all left in recent years. The disciples that joined the Heavenly Saber Pavilion all knew about Qingyun Peak. Naturally, no one would choose to go to a peak that did not even have a martial king. Some of the weaker cultivators wanted to fish in troubled waters and get close to Qingyun's sect. As for Lu Ruiyue, she did not think much of them. This resulted in the number of Qingyun Peak guests dwindling over the past 20-odd years. There was not a single official disciple. Xiaochen felt suspicious as he asked, "What kind of calamity is it?" All the older generation of Qingyun Peak died. Even the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master passed away. This is too horrifying. Lu Suifeng hesitated for a while before saying, there is no harm in telling you. After all, it is not a secret. Every big sect in the Great Qin nation has a large spatial crack sealed within. Originally, these seals were unbreakable. However, 1,000 years ago, the Thunder King, Sangmu, came to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and fought with the Pavilion Master at that time. At that time, the two of them, Sangmu and the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Pavilion Master, were peak martial sages. The shockwaves from their battle could easily flatten a peak. The shockwaves from their battle affected the seal left by the three holy masters. The seal was damaged. Every once in a while, we have to invite the people of the three holy masters to repair it. However, 20 years ago, it was the divine martial gate's turn to repair it. In the end, something unexpected happened and they arrived late. Lu Suifeng paused for a while before continuing. You should be able to guess what happened after that. All sorts of demons from the demonic world came out. There was even a demon master. I heard from the older generation that the sky of the entire Lingyun mountain range was covered in demonic qi. After the battle, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion became like this. Actually, Lu Suifeng did not know much. 20 years ago, he was not even born yet. All this was what he heard from the older generation. Hence, there were some parts that he was not clear about. Xiao Chen looked at the lunar shadow saber in his hand and his heart tightened. No wonder the old man outside the city said that if people in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion knew that he was the successor of the Thunder King, he would not have a good ending. So that was the reason. If it were not for the Thunder King's arrival, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would not have suffered such a calamity. Suddenly, Xiao Chen thought of something. He said, "That's right, where is your father now? Is he not at Qingyun Peak anymore?" Lu Suifeng pointed to the summit and said, "He spends most of his time at the summit of Qingyun Peak. They say he is in closed-door training. I only see him a few times a year." Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. The old man outside the city also did not have a martial spirit. It was easy for people to associate him with that. However, it seemed like that was not the case now. After the two of them walked for a distance, a loud shout came from the front. Xiao Chen looked forward and discovered that it was the tall and sturdy youth that he had seen before. His arms and legs were bound with metal blocks, and he was practicing his fist techniques. Beside him, there was a delicate-looking girl practicing some kind of interesting fist technique. Her speed was very slow, but it looked very charming. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, he discovered that it was similar to the Wing Chun fist of his previous life. Lu Suifeng explained, "This is Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng. They are the descendants of an old friend of my father. They grew up with me. However, their physiques are special. They are unable to condense a martial spirit. What martial technique are they practicing? I don't think I have seen it before." Xiao Chen asked suspiciously. Without a martial spirit, one was equivalent to a cripple. Back then, he was mocked by the Xiao clan for many years because he was unable to condense a martial spirit. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "It is passed down in the family. Don't underestimate them. Even if that Xiao Yang was a regular martial master, he would not be a match for him." When Xiao Yang heard the voices of the two of them, he took a careful look. His face revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. He removed the metal from his arms and legs and quickly ran over. "Elder brother Suifeng, has our benefactor already entered the inner sect?" Xiao Chen felt a little uncomfortable. He smiled gently and said, "It is just a small matter. Xiao Yang, you really don't have to take it to heart. Just call me Yi Chen. We are all of the same age, there is no need to be so reserved." Xiao Yang's honest face revealed a simple smile. He said seriously, "You saved my life and Xiao Meng's. It is definitely not a small matter." Lu Suifeng, who was at the side, said, "Yi Chen has already been accepted as a disciple by my elder sister. In the future, he will be staying at Qingyun Peak." When Xiao Yang heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. He said, "Is that so? In that case, Xiao Meng and I will go help out and tidy up the room." In the future, if elder brother Chen has any matters, you can instruct us at any time. After Xiao Yang spoke, he brought Xiao Meng and rushed forward. Lu Suifeng could not stop them at all. He could not help but smile bitterly. Why do I not feel that these two fellows are usually so hard-working? The two of them continued to walk towards the peak. Along the way, they saw many tall buildings. However, they were all empty, there was not a single person in them. Finally, Lu Suifeng brought Xiao Chen to a pavilion halfway up the mountain. There was a small stream flowing slowly beside the pavilion. The stream was boundlessly green, and there was the sound of splashing water. There was a cool breeze in the pavilion. After walking for a long time, the two of them were already sweating. When the cool breeze blew, it was very refreshing. Lu Suifeng said softly, "If we go further up, we will reach the important places of Qingyun Peak. Some of the library halls and Qingyun Pavilion are up there. There are people from the main hall standing guard there. If there is nothing important, it is best not to go there." "That's right, Yi Chen. I feel something is strange. Of the 7 inner sects, why did you choose Qingyun Peak? With your talent, you should be able to enter the other sections." Xiao Chen thought for a while and decided to tell the truth. "I came to Qingyun Peak mainly for the sake of learning listening to the sword and communicating with it." "Listening to the sword and communicating with it? You chose the right place. In the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion, only my elder sister and Ling Liusu know listening to the sword and communicating with it. However, listening to the sword and communicating with it is somewhat ethereal. It is too much of a test of comprehension and talent." Lu Suifeng said in astonishment. He did not expect Xiao Chen to come to Qingyun Peak for this reason. Xiao Chen thought, Lu Suifeng is Lu Ryue's younger brother. His understanding of listening to the sword and communicating with it would definitely be better than others. So he asked, "I heard people say that listening to the sword and communicating with it is innate. If you are not born with it, no matter how talented you are, you will not be able to learn it. Is that true?" Lu Suifeng smiled gently. "Nonsense. My elder sister grasped it on her own. However, no one knows how she learned it." A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Lu Ryue's listening to the sword and communicating with it was actually grasped by herself. However, he felt that it was much stronger than Ling Liusu's. However, listening to the sword and communicating with it is something that can only be chanced upon. If you focus on it, you will not be able to comprehend anything in your entire life. It is best not to be too stubborn about it. Otherwise, it will delay your cultivation. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, indicating that he understood. If he grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it, it would be of great help to the weapons he learned in the future. A normal person might need to learn a martial technique for a few days or even a few months. However, a person who grasped listening to the sword and communicating with it might be able to learn it in a day. Furthermore, they would be able to understand it more thoroughly. However, this kind of state was too ethereal. Many people pursued it bitterly. In the end, not only did they not learn it, they even delayed their cultivation. There were many such examples. Xiao Chen grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly. He felt somewhat conflicted in his heart. He did not know if he would end up like these people, obtaining nothing in the end. However, for the sake of his oath, he had to give it a try. If he did not even have the courage to try, he would seem too weak. After that, Lu Suifeng brought Xiao Chen back to his residence. There were very few people in Qingyun Peak. Xiao Chen was allocated a large courtyard. Xiao Yang and Xiao Meng were helping him clear up the rubbish and dust in the courtyard. By the time everyone left, it was already dusk. As the sun set, it looked very different from the mountain. Xiao Chen did not rest for long. After he returned to his room, he immediately entered into a state of cultivation. The purple thunder divine incantation slowly circulated in his body. The surrounding spiritual energy was like a mist, pouring into his body in an endless stream. What a dense spiritual energy! Xiao Chen sighed in his heart. The spiritual energy here was at least twice as dense as at the foot of the mountain. It was even denser than the strange cave at the source of the Zhuang River at the edge of savage forest. No wonder the competition between the outer sect and the inner sect was so intense. Cultivating here, the environment was much better than at the foot of the mountain. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.